Yeah, man. Here we are. Welcome, everyone. Did you notice the first mistake I've made tonight? Did you see it? Well, I noticed this 2 minutes before I went live. My mistake, my bad. It is week 25. It is not week 26. So now week 25 is never going to exist. All my files, everything that I've set up this week, I have been under the assumption, unbelievably, that it's been our 26th week, but it's actually our 25th. So those of you who are going to remember the lore of this channel, you will know why right now in this moment, week 25 is never going to exist in this series, which is really wild. But welcome. Glad that you're here. I've had an amazing week. Let's get to comments here before I get going. We have a lot to cover tonight. What is going on, everyone? Hey, Mel, I haven't seen you in forever. It's good to see you. Hey, Obi, what's going on, buddy? I miss you in Zoom. Oh, speaking of Zoom, I have an announcement to make. So all of our Nature Creature family friends who are overseas, this coming, it will be Friday night, Saturday morning at 1 a.m. I'm gonna be doing the Zoom. And I'm doing the Zoom at basically the opposite 12 hours later in order to be at a good hour time for y'all that are in London, China, Indonesia, and, basically on the opposite side of the globe and can never attend Zoom. This is going to be an opportunity for you guys to be able to come to Zoom at an hour that's reasonable for your life, and you'll be able to attend without ruining your Saturday or Sunday, whichever day that Zoom comes up for you. So please note, and for those of you that attend Zoom and come to the weekly meetings or are on the list, please know that this Friday we will not be meeting at 1 p.m. We'll be meeting at 1 a.m. Saturday morning, Friday night, if you know what I'm saying, like Friday midnight and then to 1 a.m. Saturday. That's when we'll be meeting at literally 1 a.m. in the morning, Seattle time. That should be about 9 a.m. in London. So all our friends in the UK, we're going to be on prime time for you guys there Sunday morning. So that'll be way cool. And I'm really looking forward to that because there are some folks that never are able to attend Zoom. And I've only met them once when I did this months ago, last year, as again, a way to reach our overseas friends. So please know that that's coming up this week. What else is going on in chat? Hey, everybody. Hey, King. Welcome. Yeah, it's here. We are here, and I've got some tasty treats for you guys today. Hello, my friend Vincendo. How are you, sir? Hey, hi, Verbal. How's it going? Glad to have you here. Yes, we always remember and love the natural world. Hello, Gail. Welcome. It was good to see you on Zoom the other day. Awesome. At my own pace. Welcome back. It's good to see old friends here. Lots of folks. I can't finally participate. Well, you got a great little logo. In fact, I remember anamnesis. I should stop trying to pronounce words on the fly because I'm so terrible at that. But I do love your logo there. It's gorgeous. I dig it. Hello, Dawn Eagle. Wait, where'd you go? There you go. Hello, Dawn Eagle Eye. Nice. Oh, look at your pup. What a great looking dog. Yes. Love the pups for sure. For sure. Riverside, California. Nice. I grew up near Riverside. I grew up in Fullerton. If you live in Riverside, you know right where Fullerton is. I actually moved to Fullerton in 1971, and they were selling two-story gorgeous houses for $59,500 in Fullerton, California, because that's what my parents bought their first house for. $59,400, $900. Amazing. Amazing. Here we go. Chuck, a person I've been following since 2019. Wow, look at you. That's incredible. That's a long time. Posted on her IG that Trump is the jester. I was like, wow, what a confirmation. Nice. I've actually got a movie for you tonight, a 9 or 8 minute movie with Ben Stein, and he's going to be playing the jester. It gives you another another view of what the jester looks like. Hey Mel, how's it going? It's good to see you. Glad that you're here. Hey DDP, welcome. Hey buddy, good to see you in Zoom the other day. Miss Redhead, hello, welcome. Oh, look at your puppy there. Awesome, man. I got chat that has awesome puppies. That's so good. Hey Scoot, what's up, buddy? It was good to see you in Zoom yesterday. Chuck, YouTube isn't showing your live. Uh-oh. Is that right? I'm going to go to the bottom of... How can it not be showing YouTube if all my comments are in YouTube? Can you explain? Hey, Catlin, Kiss, can you explain to me why someone says YouTube wasn't showing my video? Because that's going to basically screw me all night. I'm on YouTube and it's live. Okay. I wonder why it didn't come on. Chase, you're good? Okay. I'm on YouTube, Chuck. Okay. Good. Working here. Good. Why on earth did someone say that YouTube is not working? I got notification. Good. I have no idea. It You're definitely on YouTube. Okay, cool. Cool. I was about to have a heart attack. Because I was like, oh my God, if I'm not on YouTube, I'm going to miss a lot of the family. Okay. YouTube showed you live and I also got notified. Okay, you've been pranked. Maybe I was. I trust too much. I received a notification. Okay, good. All right. So this week, let's get into some announcements. Add to stage. So remove that. Add to stage. There. Okay. And then let's take this off here. Google Chrome to find it. Wait, don't allow. Hang on. Hide. Why won't that hide? What is going on? Okay, this is weird. It's kind of getting weird. Okay. I'm late. No notification. Yeah, no notification. I am betting you. Not showing on my page. Interesting. Interesting. I don't know what's going on. Something's happening. It's just so that you guys know, I'm being heavily shadow banned. I'm sure that's part of it because our numbers are low right now. Usually I'm into the 200 to 300s by now. And so clearly there's been a problem. But we will continue on, and that's the way it goes. But I wanted to, first of all, let you guys know that I'm being shadow banned. So please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe, and make sure here that your notifications are set to all in your YouTube and that you're subscribed. People are getting unsubscribed in mass to me. That is happening. I was contacted by 2 or 3 people this week that literally said to me that they were unsubscribed and that they had to resubscribe. And when they resubscribed, it automatically unsubscribed them about 12 hours later. So I'm really getting pushback here. So I'm sorry to say that, but that's true. Hey, what's up, Bob? It's good to see you, buddy. It's just after 10 a.m. Sunday morning. Nice. Yeah, you didn't get a notification. I'm sorry. Sorry. Don't know what's up. Okay, we will continue on, though. So here we are. So I made the announcement. The Shindig is on. We're meeting on July 18th, 2026. We're meeting at Artist Point, Mount Baker, Washington. And from noon to 4, we're going to be at the top of a mountain, hanging out together and chatting. It's going to be fantastic. And then that evening from 6 to 10, we're going to have dinner together, campfire time. And then I'm going to have a share time. I'm going to offer my testimony to everybody. I'm going to be telling the story of growing up a Christian, growing up in the Christian home that I did, and then as well as what led to my leaving Christianity, as well as my cancer story, and then how Nature Creature came about, how this whole live that I'm doing now and my posting and everything that I do, my heretical work, why all that came about and how that happened. Let's get my little logo up here first. Here we go. And so I'm going to be going over that as a testimony at the Shindig on the 18th of July. So just wanted you guys to know there's going to be a bit of a special time together, and I'm going to be talking a lot about just how this came about. And the main reason for doing that is because there are a lot of people right now, and I think you guys are becoming more and more aware of this, There are a lot of people finding out right now that the world, especially the religious world, is not that what they thought it was. And there's a lot of folks that are wondering just what does that mean, and feeling a bit like the rug has been pulled out from under them, because everything they've always believed, everything they've always known to be true, is being shown to be false, is being shown to be an illusion. And so tonight we're going to be talking a bit about that. But I'm going to be offering my testimony to hopefully offer some insight as to how I got to the place that I'm at, and that substance of that insight will hopefully offer to those who hear my talk a different perspective, a perspective that allows them to flow into the change, into the Great Awakening lucidly, without any resistance. And you know we're all about that here on my channel as we study Zen. And then those are some the luxury getaways, the Mount Baker Lodging, the Whatcom, camping at Silver Lake Park. Those are areas that you can go to check out lodgings and places to stay should you want to come up and hang out with us. There's not going to be that many, so there's going to be plenty of one-on-one time with me. I'm going to obviously be there with Jen, my wife, and there's going to be plenty of time. And there's no big agenda. I am going to this to meet you guys and to talk one-on-one, to look you in the face, give you a hug, and say hello. Honestly, that is why we're doing this. There's no agenda. I'm not going to be selling anything. I'm not going to be making any kind of big proposal or anything like that. We're literally just getting together like family members to enjoy each other's company and to simply connect, make this a better situation than we're in. And then those are my Discord and Telegram channels if you want to check it out. They're dedicated people, loving people who are dedicated to those channels to provide a theater, a place where you can go and you can talk heresy without being ostracized and chastised. And you'll be able to have a moment to share with others who are similarly like-minded and are in a similar place in their life, because this Great Awakening is a long-term thing. And as you guys know, those of you that have awoken, you know that when you first start to awaken, you're in a totally different perspective dynamic than you are 2 or 3 or 4 years down the road. I mean, think of your perspective now. Think of this, what your perspective is now compared to what it was just 2 years ago, just 3 or 4 years ago. You're a totally different person, and you're a totally different person because you see the world so much more clearly now. And it's taken you time, you know, it's taken you years to develop that and to get to a place where you don't feel afraid, you don't feel like you're unsettled, you don't feel like the rug has been pulled out from under you, and you feel very calm in your truth, in the place that you stand. And that's essential in this Great Awakening. And so that is why we have the meetings, the gatherings. That's why we do this on Saturday night. And that's why I have this Discord and Telegram channel, dedicated people who are wanting to provide a theater for you to be able to talk and work things out. And then finally, my website is coming. It's going to be in www.naturecreature.net, in case you didn't know. It's coming, and I'm excited. I'm excited that you guys will have a place where all of my material is organized and condensed into one site, because as you know, as you've scrolled through Rumble and YouTube, the way videos are organized is crazy. And so my website's going to offer an organization that's much improved. Bit of a chat for me to share with you guys, and yeah, some privacy for us to be able to discuss the kind of things that we talk about, which are not real liked. And as we know today, with the beginning of my show today, obviously it's been pushed back. And so that is why I'm developing this, so that you guys will be able to have a site where you can see all my videos organized and put together well. Okay, we are about ready to get going here. I'm going to go back to chat for a minute, see what you guys are doing, to say hello. Thank you, Chuck, for posting Discord and Telegram. You're welcome. You're welcome, yeah. Least I can do for you guys. You guys are working very hard. It has been one heck of a ride, hasn't it, King? Big time. Big time. Okay, no questions up front. Now, you guys need to know this week. So let's get into this. First of all, do you guys remember when I said that they could find you anywhere? Did you guys notice that this week the CIA found a man hiding in the hills of Iraq with only his heartbeat? Remember when I told you guys that there's no hiding? Remember when I said that? And it doesn't matter if you've got a VPN, doesn't matter what you have to think that you're hiding. If you've got special apps on your phone, they can see everything, even when your phone is off, when your computer's off, they can see you. They can track you anywhere. You can, like that guy was. He was out in the middle of the desert, middle of nowhere, in the crack of a hill, and they found him. So don't ever think that you are autonomous or that they can't find you. So let's skip that for now. We're going to skip that for now. I've got a lot to cover tonight. So one of the things I wanted to cover was this. When we listen to Parzival's tale, there were some critical elements that you guys need to know, especially those of you who are awakening and that you're a part of the Great Awakening and that you have really understood at this point that the world is an illusion, that nothing is real, that everything you see is basically programmed and fake, and that you have to see that in order to be able to enter the Great Awakening. If you are still taking the cues of the media, if you're still taking the cues of the news networks, the late night stand-up comedians, if you're still taking the cues from sort of these very loud mouths that scream and yell at you all the time about how right they are and how they've got this thing figured out and that they're the tip of the spear is a common theme amongst these folks. What you need to know is all of these groups, all of these enterprises are in cahoots, and they work together to keep an illusion of the world in front of you. And we're going to be talking about that in depth as we go into this. But one of the reasons why I played the Parzival video that I did was for those of you who have awakened to understand your responsibility. Now that you have awakened to the truth, which is that the world is illusory, that this whole idea that religion gives you, that you're a sinner, or that science gives you, that you're a dirty carbon generator, that these are egregores. They're not real. They're put onto you to skew, to suppress your perspective. And as you guys know, as we've been studying Zen, you don't change by will, okay? You don't change because you choose. Remember, we studied that. I showed you the slide. We don't change because you choose. You change because your perspective changes. And this changes your view, your position in the world, because you see yourself, your position in the world, and the world itself differently. And that is the key to change. Change doesn't happen because you think about it, and then you're like, okay, I'm going to go and be virtuous, and I'm going to be a good person and change. Change comes from a new recognition, a new perspective that you yourself see in your everyday now. And that perspective, if it's profound enough, will bring upon you this profundity that initiates the will to take a different step and to open up yourself and to walk into the world differently. And so this slide, this concluding slide, is just loaded with all kinds of endorsements to action, which is you're seeing the world differently like Parzival did, and then you're going to go and act differently, meaning participate differently because your perspective has changed. And so this is realizing this here, right at the top, closing thesis, the great myth of Europe. Enchantment is caused by anointment rather than achievement. The person who thinks that they are a chosen one, how about that? A person who thinks that they're in the elect, they're part of the elect. A person who thinks that they're in the book of life, or that they are in a saved group, and that everybody that's not in their group is not saved and doomed, you see. This is a person who thinks that they have been anointed. God has chosen them. They're one of the chosen ones. And so they get saved, you see. And that is inappropriate. That is inappropriate. That is segregating. That's spiritually racist by saying that I've got the spiritual thing figured out and you don't. You see, that's racism. That's claiming someone is destined, is spiritually off center by your claiming that upon them. Do you see that? And there's no way you could know that because you're not in their shoes. Until someone lives in your eyes and in your shoes and sees your world as you see it, which no one can, they really can't fully relate to you. And so it's inappropriate to judge others, especially spiritually. It's inappropriate to say things about them, just like if they had a particular skin color that you didn't like, and to then make claims against them, racist claims against them, because they don't have the color skin you like. It's the same thing with spirituality. If they don't have the spirituality that you like, that you agree with, that you want, it is incredibly dehumanizing and not human to make those claims against that person because you think that you're anointed. You see, it's the person that merits. It's a person who merits perspective, who merits understanding, which is the person that releases, lets go of all the beliefs they've always held on to. You see, it's the person that merits this through life experience, risk, putting themselves on the line, doubting, not believing. Remember, it was Thomas that was given permission to put his hand into the flesh of God because he doubted. It's the doubting individual, the one who doesn't believe the guru, who doesn't believe the sage, but thinks for themselves, takes on their perspective, doubting and all. A cynic takes on the perspective of the guru, the quote unquote authority or whatever. They take it on, but they don't integrate it until it's passed through their discernment, their heart. And this aligns you, you see. And this way, you gather the things that resonate with you, right? The stuff that really causes those questions and evolves you because you've emptied the mind and allowing these new things new thoughts to enter. It's that individual that actually can grow. That person has merited the opportunity because they have been willing to release. And it isn't until you are willing to release that you will be able to grow. This is why being a fanatic, taking on the idea that you know that you're right, that you've got your eternity secured, right? That you've got the right God, that you're in the book of life. You see, that person has merited nothing because they're assuming. You see, they are assuming claims that have been put into them, not living out claims that they realized in their life. That's why the person who never is told the story of Jesus, Allah, Yahweh, they'll never come up with those names. They'll never think of those ideas because they haven't been indoctrinated, you see. So it's not natural to fall into that. Whereas a person who walks into nature, sees the sunset, is in the precarious predicament that they are in, just living in the forest or living in nature. This is a person who is orienting to their experience. They're orienting to the world as it is rendering itself to them through their experience, through their life, through their reality, you see. And so this is the only truth that you can know. So the person who takes what they've learned and simply makes that claim for themselves, takes on that claim for themselves, is the person who thinks that they've been anointed. They haven't merited what they understand because they haven't lived it. You see, they haven't come to this understanding through living it out. They've come to this understanding by reading a book, by listening to a sermon, by following orders. You see, and that person isn't aware because they've taken on this idea that they are anointed. They have been anointed these things, and we know that that is an ultimate truth. Now see, continuing. See, that causes the enchantment. Now the Redeemer is the naive hero acting from the purity of their own nature. You see, and this is the person who asks the question, what's wrong here? What's the matter? They don't just take an answer handed to them by an authority. They ask themselves, they ask their situation, what's wrong here? What can I do to participate in this situation, to help better the situation? You see, it's the person who doesn't have the answer, the naive hero. Why is this person the naive hero? Because they're acting from the space of compassion. They're naive, they don't know. They're open and willing to learn. And they're a hero because they're willing to risk walking into that unknown space to help, to learn, to become. And this is the person who can save the world. The person who doesn't know how, the person who doesn't follow directions, the person who doesn't obey. Because this person accesses the world from their own truth, their own perspective, which is the only truth you can know, which is the only thing that's going to inspire you enough, inspire your heart enough to participate, to give yourself away so that you can become what the world essentially needs to render the truth, to become that which is needed and necessary, the capacity of the society. This is the person who can save the society. You see, the Redeemer is the naive hero, the person who doesn't know, who is acting out from the space of love, the purity of their own nature that saves the world. You see, this is whether in secular, Parsifal love versus love and spirit, or monastic, the Galahad, the forest quest form, the Grail myth celebrates the individual's direct adventure. You see, direct personal adventure, because your personal adventure is the only adventure that's going to be able to render the truth to you. Think about it. Think about it. You don't learn the truth following an order, obeying. You don't learn the truth repeating, being a parrot of Bible verses, of Quran verses. This isn't it. What awakens the world is your authenticity, your unique take, your art. None of these are taught to you. None of these things. You learn these things. You learn these things through trial and error, through pain. And this is what teaches you, you see. And this is the person that can save the world, you see. The ultimate illumination for human life. The kingdom, the paradise is already here. You see, you're living in the paradise. The wasteland is an enchantment of perspective. You see, you are in the paradise, but you see, if your perspective is skewed, if you're buying all the stuff that the authorities are telling you, you're buying all the lines about the world being corrupt and fallen at its core, can't be saved, has to be destroyed, no use, nothing you could do. There's no hope for you unless you believe correctly. But there's no hope for you unless you believe correctly. There's no hope for you unless you change your, what's the word? Unless you see clearly that you're truly fallen and a sinner, you see, in the Christian world, you see, there's no hope for you. You see, and a person who has that idea that there's no hope for them unless they believe properly, you see, they have a skewed perspective because they're not authentically seeing the world. They're seeing the world through a taught perspective, through binoculars that don't allow the full wide-angle view. Do you see? So here, this is enchantment. That's an enchantment. Keeps you from seeing the world. And how are you going to save the world? How are you going to be a part of the saving of the world if you're in an enchantment? If you don't even know the world as it is, you only know the world as you've been told, how are you going to save that world? How are you going to participate in the saving of that world? You'll be irrelevant to the entire thing because you understand it from a skewed perspective. So all the elixirs, all the medication, all the prescriptions that you bring, saying that you're right, saying you got it figured out, saying that you are the end all be all, right? That you've got the right God and so forth. Do you see how irrelevant you become doing that? Because the world isn't a finite space in a known quantum. It's a wonder. And perspective, skewed perspective, keeps you from seeing the wonder, keeps you from seeing the truth that it is. The naive individual is the one who can see it. Break through it by living from spontaneous compassion. This is the person who moves from the heart, not from the mind. The person who has transcended the mind with the heart. And so they move from the space of inspiration, not fear. Dr. Joseph Campbell communicated in his lectures that there are only two means to motivate a person, right? Inspiration and terror. Those are the only two ways, according to Dr. Campbell. Only two ways. Inspiration and fear. You see, how am I going to inspire someone, right, if they're living in a state of fear? What causes me to live in a state of fear? When I believe illicit truths about myself that have been taught to me. That puts me in a state of fear. When I believe the world is fallen, that there's a devil out to get me, that there's a devil hunting me, and I have to put on armor to protect myself, that's motivating me through fear, isn't it? Do you see how then these holy books like the Quran and the Bible motivate through fear? because they're not having a dialogue with you. They're telling you. They're informing you. And it's not asking your opinion. The Quran, the Bible, the Torah, these things are not asking your opinion. They're informing, they're telling you, and they're saying, you can't believe anything else. Do you see? That's going to lead right in perfectly to what we're going to talk about here in a minute. Personal love and the integrity of your soul without rules, without external authority. This is the European and modern mythical call. You see, this is what I'm attempting in my work. Become the great fool. How about that? Become the great fool. How many truthers or people that you watch on YouTube tell you that? Say, become the great fool, and then you will be able to save the world. Do you see how it takes a deeper sense to understand that statement? Do you see how if you don't have that deeper sense, how you would mock that statement and laugh at it? But it's the person who is sensitive. It's the person who's doubting, the cynic, who will be able to hear that statement and see, I know exactly what you're talking about, Chuck. I know exactly what you're talking about. And you see, it's the person who is sensitive, who sees through the Maya, who sees through the illusion, who isn't wearing the binoculars, who has the wide angle view. You see, the wide angle view individual is nonplussed. They're nonplussed because they're not taken or confused by the situation. They're not taken by it. And so because they're not taken, they're not reactive. They're not coming in and saying, this is the fix. This is what you do. Follow these 5 steps and you're good to go. Follow this person on YouTube and you're good to go. You see, the wise person knows that you need to have a wide perspective in order to understand enough to be able to walk into the space and become the capacity that the space needs in order for you to help. You see, relativism, very important. And it is the great fool who is able to be relative because he's authentic, and this person heals the world through their authenticity, right? Because they don't know how. That's why it's authentic. And just like Parsifal, they come in and say, I don't know. What's the matter here? I don't know. What's going on here? How can I help? Why is the king sick? I don't know. I don't have the answers. Why is the king sick? See, this is where you bring yourself right into the now. Why is the king sick? Why am I sick? Why is the world sick? And the only way you're going to be able to know that is if you're relative, is if you don't know. Ding, ding, ding. Now do you see the logic of the fool? So now this takes us to the next step. I received a letter this week. Dear lady, and I'm going to read this to you so that you guys can get into the space that I was in when I read it. And my immediate response was that line you see right there, Adolf Bastian, the judge, and Stockholm syndrome. And I'm going to explain all of it to you right now. And let me just tell you on the front end, you guys, let me just tell you right now, every week I get letters from people that are frustrated. And this isn't a criticism. Every week I get letters from people who are frustrated because they are on the internet or they have relationships with people who are causing cognitive dissonance in their life. Now, cognitive dissonance is the situation where, let's say, like you have 2 best friends, 2 people that you've known forever, and you love them to death, and you talk to them all the time, okay? And let's say like you ask them a question about the political situation, and one of them gives you one answer, and the other one gives you the opposite answer. Now, you respect both of them. You love both of them. You've known both of them forever, okay? So you really, you revere what they have to say, right? They wouldn't be one of your best friends. You wouldn't waste your time with somebody who's just wasting your time. You're going to be with somebody who's going to challenge you, and all kind of stuff that makes a friend a friend. Okay. Now you've got a problem, though, because you're asking this, political question or spiritual question, and you're getting opposite answers. Let's say like it's a spiritual question. Let's say like you ask one of them, who is God? What do you see about God? What is God to you? Kind of a thing. And they give you this whole religious rigmarole. And they give you the whole thing about how you're a sinner and Jesus is here to save you, or Allah is here to save you. And if you just simply believe in them and you do as what their books say, the Bible, you just simply do that and you're good. You got the spiritual thing worked out, brother. You're all good. Okay, that's your one friend. Now you got this other friend who's a total cynic, a total iconoclast, right? And they don't take anything for its cover. And they don't believe any book. And they just basically are like us. They just are looking at the whole perspective, and they're like, what are you, crazy? You think the whole world and all of nature surmises into a construct called religion? You really think God fits into a book? What? You really think these books that have been molested and tainted over time as they've been translated and retranslated and put together and taken apart and re-put back together, and you're going to think that is the end all be all? Really? Right? So you get this other side. Now you respect both people. You love both people, right? What are you going to do now? You've got cognitive dissonance because one says you've got total freedom. You're in the void. It's all about release and letting go. And then you got another one that says, no. It's all about believing correctly. You better make sure you're praying to the right God. You better make sure you've got your eternity secured. You better make sure you got your sins forgiven. You better get that stuff done. And if you don't get that stuff done, friend, there is no hope for you, pal. None. No hope at all. This is cognitive dissonance. These are two people that are giving you an opinion that is very believable. Very believable. In fact, both of them have millions of people that subscribe to either side. Both. Smart people. I mean, C.S. Lewis subscribed to Christianity. C.S. Lewis is a smart guy. Smart guy. Right? He totally was sold down the river. Right? And so people hear that and they think, well, my God, if he could believe this, what the heck? How could it not be true? Lewis is a genius. Right? How could it not be true? Right? And then you got the full-blown heretic on the other side, like maybe Plato or Aristotle, who didn't subscribe to any idea of salvation or this idea. They were totally in this other world, this other perspective. And there's a lot of people that follow Platonism. There's a lot of people that read Aristotle and find very freeing words and have no issue or concern about believing in Jesus or believing in this particular religion, Allah or Yahweh or anything like that, you know? This is cognitive dissonance. This is exactly what happened. And I'm now going to explain to you why this is the case. And by listening to me talk about this, hopefully it will give you some substance to stand on to defend yourself, or at least to give a stand to what you subscribe to in this world. Hi, Chuck. I have had a really emotional day. I appreciate all that you've shared on Saturday night, and I appreciate the journey you have entered, as it's been gut-wrenching and life-saving for you. Your story is just incredible, and the strength it's taken to endure and press forward is mind-blowing. I cannot imagine what you have been through. I continue to listen and observe and take in all of your information. Okay, that is, I'm telling you, that is the way to do it. For what it's worth, this approach, this gal, this is a good approach, right? She's had a tough week, and she's coming to me and saying, "Listen, I'm confused. I don't understand what's going on here." Right? Watch what happens. On another note, someone who I follow and have weekly contact with, like you, has had the opposite experience as you. And as I write this, my mind is just bouncing back and forth. That's the cognitive dissonance between these two realities. Okay, two people who I follow and hold in the highest regard, saying almost opposite, mostly opposite things. And it's just incredible to live in this life, really, of duality. I have shed tears in the pain and absolute amazement and dedication to both stories. You see, convicted. She's heard my story. It has moved her. She's heard her another friend's story, convicted and moved her also. Okay, cognitive dissonance. It's a real thing. Here we go through, where was I? Sorry, lost my place. I have shed, okay, I myself am tormented by life, as most humans are, especially as they age and face their mortality and observe all those who have gone before them, including their parents. You see, it's heavy. The person I speak of is a survivor of horrific child satanic sexual abuse. She was sold to traffickers from age 0 to 5 years old, and she was also a victim of underground tunnels at a major research university where children were tortured and used for adrenochrome and live organ harvesting without any sedation. And let me just Let me just give you guys a dose of reality here right now, okay? Make sure you do not have the donor check on your driver's license. Make sure that. And make sure that if you just write them and tell them to take them, they won't take you off. You have to go to the DMV and you have to force them to take you off. Now, the reason why you don't want to be on a donor list on your driver's license is because that's where a lot of live organ harvesting occurs. And people, remember, we are in a sinister world. You need to understand the world you're living in. And people who do that, who put the check, they're going to be a donor on their license, right? They think they're doing a good thing. They think they're doing a good thing. But the problem is all of the systems, the medical system are lined up so that, let's say like you're in a car accident. When the medical people find out that you're a donor, there ain't going to be any real strong effort to try and bring you back to life, my friend, because you are an invaluable commodity and you're about to die. And your organs, if they don't help you, and your organs are worth tens of thousands, if you put the whole thing together, up over $1 million with just what's in your living body. And they have to get those organs while you're alive. And the problem is that people are taken in on the gurney or whatever. They're hauled into the hospital. And because they're a donor, it's just basically chosen. Well, this person's worth a lot more dead than they are alive. And so they basically take you in to extract your organs. And they ain't using no sedation, my friend. They say that you're brain dead or something like that. Have you heard the stories of the people who have had after-death experiences, and they were in the hospital room and they began to remove one of their organs, and they felt the pain and so forth, and something happened whereby the administrators that are in the medical people that are in the room with them notice that the brain is activating or the heart starts beating or something like that, where the person comes back to life. And so they move out of that near-death experience and they begin to save this person. And that person will have memories of the room, and they're unconscious, and they begin to pull the organ out, and they can feel the knife cutting into their skin and beginning to make that process happen. This is what happens. And people don't know this. People don't know this. Do not be checked on your driver's license. Do not have your donor button checked, because they'll live organ harvest on you, pal. Seriously. The world has not shifted yet. We're in the midst of that right now, and there's some real psychotic. It's like the idea I presented to people that the Catholic Church is a collection agency, and someone who's a Catholic can't fathom that, can't believe it. And this person who believes that the medical industry is on their side, they can't believe that, no, there's no live body organ harvesting going on. Those people don't know what's going on. No, they do know. No, they're taking those organs out with the person alive. Yes, they can feel it. Okay, same thing. None of the Catholic Church is collecting your children. Yes, it is. They are child collecting agency. That's what they do. And the person who hasn't awakened, right, who doesn't understand this, will hear this and they'll think it's ludicrous. They'll think it's crazy. Same thing with the person that says that religion is a crock. A person who's a hardcore religious will say, you're crazy. You're nuts. I'm not going to believe that, right? It's because they're indoctrinated. They've bought the egregores. They don't realize that the world is what it is. You see, and you have to have a sensitive, sort of all-seeing mind, all-seeing eye going on when you are living life, because if you don't see through the illusions, you will get caught in the illusions, my friend. And nature doesn't have a problem if you have low discernment and you get yourself into a bind. You're going to have to get yourself out, because nature's just going to divvy out the consequences for making poor decisions. That's the way it is. So you have to wisen up. You have to wisen up. That's exactly what we're going to do with this letter. Okay. Live organ harvesting without any sedation. Through her journey, Jesus and God have been with her. They have protected her and helped her overcome these extreme circumstances so she can live a somewhat normal life. Jesus and God appear to her on a regular basis and talk to her and give her prophetic signs. Jesus would take her to heaven when she was being sexually abused as a baby. She literally sees him and God and the Holy Spirit to this day. Okay, to this day, they have helped her overcome the extreme abuse and neglect she survived. She has survived. How can you explain this, Chuck? I'm so confused. You both have views I understand and appreciate. Please help me. Now, this is the correct approach. The person who is willing to ask the question, the person who is willing to learn, the person who is willing to know more than they have been taught, more than they have experienced. So she's in the place to learn. So let's break out the chalkboard. Now, so what is happening here is this dear gal who was abused her whole life, she then started having these after-death experiences, or had some after-death experiences. And in those after-death, or I should say near-death experiences, she saw spirit bodies. She saw beings that were kind to her and loved her and were ushering her into this afterlife experience. And then she then made claims later when she had learned English and she had learned religion and learned about the world and learned sort of how the world works. She then remembered it's Jesus who was saving me when I was a baby, when I was an infant and I couldn't speak and I didn't know any English or anything, and I was being raped and I began to die from the pain and the suffering I was going through. And I had this near-death experience. Now I know it was Jesus that was carrying me to heaven. And it is still Jesus to this day that I'm praying to, that I see in my visions, that I see when I talk to spiritually, that I hear with my voice. Okay. I'm not denying her. I'm saying it's true. Absolutely. This is absolutely. She's telling the truth. Absolutely. Right. How can I say that though? With what I've said. Let me explain it to you. That name right there, Adolf Bastian. Now, Adolf Bastian was an anthropologist that lived at the turn of the century, the 18th to the 19th century. He was a 20th century anthropologist. And Adolf Bastian developed what he called the perennial philosophy. Okay. And this is the philosophy, the mythology that passes through all societies over time. So every society, depending upon where they are in time, has a perennial philosophy, a mythology that undergirds, outlines, and inspires the world as you experience it. Okay. Right now, for example, we're under a dominator culture mythology. We're under a mythology, a perennial philosophy that has materialism as its god. That's why the bank is the sanctuary for modern day. Okay, that's why it's like that. We are under a dominator culture, materialistic mythology. That's why we have materialistic religions here in the West. Islam, Christianity, Judaism. These come out of dominator perennial philosophies, dominator culture. That's why they build fanatics. They make people who think they're right and deny anyone that talks differently from them. This comes out of a dominator, defensive, attacking philosophy, a philosophy that is oriented to conflict, not contrast. So a dominator philosophy, a dominator perennial philosophy, mythology is going to have within it a conflict orientation, a conflict ontology, because that goes with, that works hand in hand with a dominator, takeover, usurpation, warring, attacking philosophy, monotheistic. Okay? Now, Bastian noticed that as you go back in time and as we continue here forward in time, the undergirding of what carries the perennial philosophy changes. Now, the principal figure within the perennial philosophy is called the elementary idea. And the elementary idea is the idea of God within the perennial philosophy. So how does the costume of God, the elementary idea, how does it change over time? And it changes in what's called the folk idea, which is the local, provincial opinions, thoughts, notions about God. Okay, that's what that is. So the Western human being is under the philosophy of Christianity. And so their elementary idea of God is Yahweh, is Jesus for the Islamic, is Allah. This is the elementary idea. And then the costume, The local provincial costume is that local idea of what that God is, right? So it's God passing through all of these different religions. It's God passing through down from even before humankind had organized. Okay, that's the elementary idea. And so you've got Christianity that puts a form, a costume onto that God idea. You got Islam that puts a form, an idea called Allah onto that God, onto that idea of God, right? You've got a folk idea from the Jews, and they put the costume of Yahweh on that elementary idea. And so all of the culture is oriented to the elementary idea through their local provincial costumes. Okay, so they're talking about, and this is the mind-bending aspect for any Western religionists, they're all talking about the same energy. Okay, this is what that Western religionists can't tolerate. But they all are pointing at the same energy, this God energy, the self-organizing energy, this energy that permeates and transcends time and is within and inspiring all things, manifests the universe. Okay, every local culture has a costume, a folk idea that they stick on the elementary idea. Okay, you follow? So therefore, within the society right there, you're going to have totally different ideas of that elementary God transcending energy that permeates the culture. Everyone's going to have their own idea. So what is happening is when that dear lady, when she remembers when she was being abused as a child, when she remembers back to going into whatever spiritual space she went into in that near-death experience, she then takes, she then takes her own folk ideas, her own provincial, local ideas of the culture, and she pastes, she identifies that spiritual energy within the costume that she has been trained in. So when she learned to speak, when she learned what the word Jesus meant, what the word devil means, what the word Leviathan means, what heaven is, what hell is, what the afterlife is, what God is, it was all in the local folk ideas that put the costume on that spiritual energy, because you can't finally name it, right? But you're going to costume it to understand, to be able to put yourself in the place and be able to find reason and understanding, right? And so you're going to put words. That's all you can do, because that's how you've learned to understand the word, through words, concepts, egregores. And this costumes the form. And this is why she comes out and says, listen, I am telling you the truth. Listen, Jesus is real. I see him every day. When I was a child, I saw him. He came and saved me. You see? And it's because they're operating under costumes, ideas handed to them by who? The dominators, the ones that built the religion for the dominator culture, the male dominant power usurpation controlling culture that is driving the society. How could she do otherwise? So of course, she's going to costume that spirituality, you see, to be able to know and relate to it, put an identity to it, you see, because this is how you find understanding, I should say. Yeah? Okay. This is why then the atheist, when they die, very often will have a near-death experience where they will experience that, but they won't have an identity for it. Or they will put the identity they heard about in their local culture to it, which is why they're not going to name that whatever it is by the names that the Egyptians used, by the names that the Babylonians used, by the names that the Canaanites used, because those aren't relevant to his local society, his local folk ideas, or her. And so the atheist, if they have this major spiritual experience, will tend to identify, costume that spiritual essence in it and their local idea, because they don't have the ideas that the Canaanites had. They don't have the ideas that the Pharaohs had. They don't have the ideas that the Romans had, because that's not their culture. That's not their local folk idea. They're describing the elementary philosophy, the perennial philosophy, right? They're describing it in their local folk notions. How could they do otherwise? It's all they know. You see, and this is why you have to open your mind, release what you know to actually learn. Okay, continuing. This is how you can explain this. Now, here's the problem, the judge. Now, here's the problem. This is when you're going to run into trouble. Now, we know you guys can't deny, nobody can deny, even a hardcore Christian can't deny this. You guys know that the Bible is an assembled document. You know that, okay? We all can agree it was not all written by one person. It was written by multiple people over vast spans of time. And then it was all assembled when? When did they finally assemble it? Remember? 325 in Nicaea. This is when Christianity was agreed upon. And all the influencers, the authorities, keep that in mind, the spiritual authorities at that time, they were the ones who assembled it. Okay? Now, they also were the ones then, after they assembled it, they then went into the church and they informed people. And they said, this is the truth. And this is why it's the truth. Here's all the reasons why you guys can know that we're right. So here you go. Here's all that we're going to get it to you, all the evidence. Here you go. Go look it up. Okay, go look it up and you will find out that, you know, we are the authorities and we're right. And if you just simply obey, do as we have so beautifully laid out in this book, especially this New Testament here for you. We've laid it out for you. And all you have to do is follow these steps. And you're good. You're good. You got the spiritual stuff worked out, brother. It's all worked out. No worries at all. You're free and clear. All good. All good. Okay. Now, here's the problem with that. Now, and as you guys know, this is what the world believes in the West. This is what the world believes now. Spiritually, 80% of the United States is hardcore Christian. Hardcore. Okay? They ain't leaving. Okay. And all of these people, hundreds of millions of 200 million people, right, are completely taking their spiritual cues from that book, that assembled book. Now, here's what none of them see, because if they saw this, they would leave immediately, but they don't see it. And I'm going to lay it out to you. If you were the defendant in a case and you're in court, okay, and you're sitting there and you're going to defend yourself and you're sitting there behind the defense table and you got the plaintiff who's on the other table, right? And you got the judge, right? You got the jury, okay? And you're going to defend yourself and you're going to defend what you believe and think in this courtroom, okay? The problem is that the judge in this case is also the plaintiff and is also the jury, namely the Catholic Church. And they're saying in this case, listen, here's the case for spirituality. And we're the judge, we're the final authority, and we're right, you're wrong. This is the way that it is. And the judge is also on the plaintiff's case. So the judge is also the plaintiff, which is the church. The church claiming we're right. This is it. All you folks that don't believe like us, you in the defense, you're all wrong. You see, the judge is also playing that role because the church judges, they're calling themselves the authority. They're saying they're the authority based on the scriptures they put in there. So the judge is approaching this case for you as the defense, think if this is fair or not, is saying, listen, I'm also the plaintiff and I'm also the jury. I'm also the jury because I'm the final word. Remember, they invented the Pope. The Pope isn't the thought word of God, is the word of God. According to the Catholic Church, the Pope is the mouth of God. And the mouth of God is the final say, right? There's your jury. So that the Catholic Church is making the case, and everyone that's in the defense who believes it is buying this case of, we are the judge, we are the plaintiff, and we're the jury. And if you go against that, we're throwing you in jail. you're going to hell forever. You're burning forever. Now, if you're sitting there as the defense, do you think that you're getting a fair case? If you were in there for stealing or murder, do you think you'd get a fair case if the judge was also the plaintiff and also the jury? Would you be getting a fair case? Because the way this book is held out in front of you is, unless you follow this thing to the law, pal, you're finished forever. You're going straight to hell. You're going to burn forever. God will never know you. You're done. You're done. Okay? So they're the judge, the final authority, the jury, and the plaintiff. They're the one making the case, saying, you're fallen. And here's all the reasons why. And look, the jury believes us as well as the judge. It's all the same. The Christian, the Western religionist, is oblivious to this. Oblivious. They don't realize the very people that claim their authority wrote in the very document they claim makes their authority that they're the authority. Would you ever consider a case like that fair? They actually developed the substance for the Bible. They actually invented that so that you would believe it. The Dead Sea Scrolls don't tell you what they say they do. The Dead Sea Scrolls do not support Christianity. But you'll never know that because they also corrupt and determine the evidence that supports the very book they claim is the end-all be-all. Now, would you believe that case? Would you buy into that? If you were the defense, would you ever accept that case? You never would, because you know it's rigged. It's rigged by the people that are putting it up. It's rigged for them. And they killed anybody that denied it. Remember the Crusades? They literally went out and murdered anyone that didn't support what they were claiming. They made religion law. And we know this. And you have to ask yourself, do people have your best interest in mind and love you when they rig the system like that? Is that person operating, is that group operating in a way that is humane, loving, caring? When in fact, when they first released it, they wouldn't even put it in a language that you could read. Does that sound like a good teacher? A teacher that goes up in front of the class and instructs in a language you don't even speak. Folks, this was the beginning of Christianity. Just so you know. That's how it started. Murder, giving the information in a language people couldn't speak and didn't understand. And then a rigged jury system, a rigged court system, where the very people who are making the claims are calling themselves judge, jury, and plaintiff. And you have to be in the case because this is the word of God. Shall we go deeper? What this causes when you take a human being and you shove them into a situation like that, that's unfair, that is psychologically deranged and corrupt, what happens is you develop what's called Stockholm syndrome, which is a trauma abuse bond. Now, don't you think if you were up for murder and they were going to send you to life in prison and you showed up in the courtroom and you were on the defense table and you look up and you see that the judge is acting as the jury, the plaintiff, and himself, do you think you'd kind of start to get a bit concerned? Do you think that you would kind of start to panic because you realize what's going on? Keep that in mind. Western religions are psychologically self-soothing coping mechanisms for the fallen world they themselves evoke. They are engineered to help converts survive the very trauma each doctrine creates in each member. What does that sound like to you? Does that sound like a Hegelian dialectic? The very person who is telling you that there's a problem also brings to you the answer to that problem, and they're the final say for that problem? Isn't that a way to get people coerced into believing a certain way? We'll continue here. Beneath the mask of unconditional love, Western religion paints a palette of threatening, unchangeable, life-bearing ultimatums. I mean, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe and you're separated from God forever. That's a life-bearing ultimatum that must be obeyed, or punishment is delivered. You see, this is how religion is delivered to you in the West.
You follow this, pal, or you're done. But God loves you. God loves you so much. Jesus loves you so much. So don't even think about that ultimate. You don't even need to. Just accept the gift. Just fall into this identity of a sinner. Just fall into this religious belief system, and you're all good, friend. You're all good. And this is the love of Jesus pouring out to you. Do you see how that's coercion? Do you see how that's using love to force someone into a position? It's like the person who says, if you don't love me, I'm going to lock you up. I'm going to lock you up in the house. I'm not going to let you out until you love me. This is what happens when you put ultimatums on people. If you don't believe us, you're going to burn in hell forever, pal. You're going to burn forever. There's no hope for you. And if you bother to even look at that and you don't look at the love of Jesus, you don't understand the love of Jesus. Someone hasn't explained it to you properly if you're even thinking about hell anymore. This is brainwashing. This is how they get you. Fear. Okay. Born separate. These are the threats that it puts onto you so you don't think straight. Born separated from God. Romans 5:12. Ephesians 2:1-3. You are by nature children of wrath, like the rest of mankind. Programming. Psalm 51:5. I, David, was sinful at birth. What kind of an attitude and perspective would you have of yourself if you thought of yourself that way? I did for 40 years. Eventually gave me cancer. Thinking like that. Isaiah 59:2. Your iniquities have made a separation between you and your God, and your sins have hidden his face from you so that he does not hear you, pal. Doesn't hear you. Doesn't hear you. You don't believe correctly. Doesn't even hear you. Threat. These are threats. Doomed to burning in hell forever. Romans 6:23a. The wages of sin is death. John 3:18. Whoever does not believe is condemned already because he has not believed the name of the only Son of God. The only, there's the exclusivity. You can't think differently. You can't question that. You cannot question that. See how it works? This is coercion. This is forcing you in little by little, under the guise of love, under the guise of we're saving you. You should be thankful. Jesus is saving you from yourself. You're so bad. You're such a sinner. You should be thankful. You should be thankful that you're not having to live your life without Jesus, because he's the only one that can save you. Brainwashing. That is brainwashing. 101, especially if you tell it to children. Evil prowls the planet looking for victims. 1 Peter 5:8. Your adversary, the devil, prowls like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. You're being hunted, pal. You better put on the armor of God. Ephesians 6:11. Everyone is still a sinner till death, with no hope without an atoning Savior. John 14:6. Acts 4:12. Salvation is found and known with Jesus. Think of how ludicrous that is. 1 Timothy 2:5. For there is one God and there is one mediator between God and men, the man Christ Jesus. There you go, the mediator. That tells you that they want you to worship him. Those that don't believe that the Bible says not to worship, or never claims that you're to worship Jesus. Right there. He is the mediator between you and God. You don't get to God without him. It's the God-man. As it's taught in conservative evangelical churches, the miracle is that Jesus is 100% God and 100% man. Those are the words out of the mouth of my Father. Jesus, Chuck, was 100% man and 100% God. That's the miracle. And you see, when you believe that, you never realize that that's actually you. That's actually you, because you save yourself. You're the creator. You're the final authority. You are the mediator between material and spirit, between you and God, between the earthly existence and God. You're the mediator. This is why the church never wanted you to know this. Because the only truth you can know is your own experience, not something told to you. So no matter what you're told, it's always secondary. It's behind the ball. You're the only one who can hold the ball, because it's what your heart says. That's the truth. Do you see? Do you see? John 3:36, whoever believes the Son has eternal life. Whoever does not obey the Son shall not see life, but the wrath of God remains on him. There's the threat. He does not hear you right there in yellow. There's the threat. You're going to burn in hell forever. There's the threat. Now, why do you think, ask yourself, just matter of fact, take your emotion out of this. Why do you think they put all of those ultimatums in the Bible? Why do you think they did that? Especially the New Testament. Why do you think that? Why do you think they're so obsessed to get the mass public to buy into this? Do you think it's because they have the mass public's best interest in mind and they're trying to save everyone? Do you think that's why they're approaching that way? Is that the way you approach a child? Do you say to a child, now listen here, kiddo, unless you love your Uncle Chuck, right? Uncle Chuck's going to burn you in fire forever. Unless you love me, boy, unless you do, I'm going to punish you. Is that how you render love to the individual? Or do you render love by saying, you know, Jesus loves you unconditionally and is saving you from hell. You don't even have to worry about it. Jesus loves you so much, you get to be saved from hell. Do you realize that is just as bad, because the person sees themselves as, Jesus is going to save me despite myself? Coercive, corrosive, conniving. Do you see? Do you see how it works? This is going to help you see through it. These implanted dogmas generate an unrelenting, inescapable psychic tension. That tension is the psychological mechanism that triggers Stockholm syndrome. I'm going to bring this stuff to you guys so clear you won't believe it. A trauma response in which the victim adopts the values of the aggressor in order to survive. Yes, Stockholm syndrome is a psychic survival technique, a coping mechanism, just like Christianity and Islam and Judaism. Coping mechanisms, and it saves the mind by leaving it from an inescapable situation. What inescapable situation are you talking about, Chuck? This one right here. He does not hear you. There is one mediator between God and man. The wrath of God remains on him. You are by nature children of wrath. Right there. Right there. There's the inescapable situation. So that's what you need. That is the milieu that undergirds the Stockholm syndrome. So in order to be able to qualify for the Stockholm syndrome, you have to be under oppression. What is the sinner? They are prone to wander. They're prone to leave the God they love. They're being hunted by the devil. Do you see? Do you follow? Inescapable situation. They're under pressure. It's thick. This is why they lose all common sense and commit to it. The syndrome was not a modern discovery. It is ancient black magic Ashkenazi mind programming tech passed down from fallen angels and spirits. This is another thing that people don't know. Christianity comes out of the order of the black snake, straight out of the mouth of Mark Passia. This is why its attitude is so fanatical. This is why its attitude is so isolating. This is why its attitude is so ulterior, ultimatum-oriented, conflict-oriented. It's because it comes out of an order that's oriented to conflict, namely the order of the black snake, which sees the world as an enterprise to consume and take over. Well, since you can't control human beings, they can only control themselves. What do you have to do to control those human beings? Terrorize the F out of them. Terrorize the F out of them. Tell them all they're going to hell. Tell them all they got no hope. Tell them all they've got they don't know God without you. Tell them that you're your own, that you are their only savior. Terrorize them. What did Dr. Campbell say about motivating life? Terror or inspiration. It's the only way you can motivate people. So how am I going to motivate people to enter the religion? I'm going to terrorize them into it. Force them into it by making it so unthinkable for not doing it that you would never not do it. Because the thought of burning forever in hell is incomprehensible. It terrorizes you. Think about a 4 or 5-year-old child, and I'll just speak for myself. When I was 4 or 5 years old and I found out through other people who were Christians, they told me, Chuck, if you don't believe right, man, you're done. Like right now, if you died right now, like a little accident happened to you, Chuck. Let's say I'm 5, 6 years old. Right? Something happens to you and you're not a Christian, you're done. You're done. You're done. And then you have the Christians who say, no, the person has to be at least 8 or 9 before they'd go to hell. Okay, you're 10 years old, you're going to go to hell if you don't believe right, kiddo. What's that 10-year-old going to have in their mind? Terror. Terror. What happens when you're terrorized? All your common sense goes away. All your discernment's flushed down the toilet. All your reasoning is lost. Do you see a methodology here? Do you see a systemic intention to harm here? Keep reading. Designed into the manipulation of our DNA, one of our weaknesses, it is an exploitable blind spot in the human psyche used for millennia by satanic cults, Roman officials, Egyptian priesthoods, Nazi programmers, CIA handlers, and Masonic lodges. And so you ask yourself, Chuck, what are you talking about? Now, Stockholm Syndrome. Stockholm Syndrome comes out of a situation that happened in Stockholm, Sweden in the 70s. I wrote an entire chapter in my book about it because it's the central theme of Christianity, meaning it's the central psychology. It's the psychology that undergirds Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. Any Western ultimative religion that works through ultimatum and it's our group or nobody, anything that works on that, right? It comes out of these ulterior motive types of belief systems, which places a person into Stockholm Syndrome. Now, in Stockholm, Sweden, there was a bank, and there were a number of tellers that were working that day, and criminals broke into the bank, and they held the tellers at gunpoint, and they hauled them. This is a true story. This is a true story. Hauled them into the bank vault, and they had this whole plan that they were going to do to get money out of the bank vault and use the tellers as hostages. And so what happened was, they, first of all, the tellers are introduced into a traumatic situation. They're being held up at gunpoint. Okay, so I've had a gun held to me, so I can tell you right now, it's an extremely traumatic situation. It's not anything to take lightly. They then hauled those people into the bank vault, and then they locked themselves in the bank vault with the tellers as a part of this whole plan. And they were holding the tellers at gunpoint, and they beat the hell out of one of them that started to talk back. And the others that were in there with them, the other tellers that were with them, saw that person get the hell beaten out of them. Okay, terrorizing. This is terrorizing. In case you wonder how you begin to bend a person's mind and destroy their mind, do things like that in front of someone. Bring someone to an inch of their life by beating them and forcing other people to watch it, and those people will begin to move into a terrorized, traumatic situation. And what you need to understand then is, this forms what's called a syndrome. When the brain, the human brain, is put into an impossible situation that they cannot escape from, meaning that person can't escape that situation. They're locked in the vault. They can't escape. The psyche cannot suspend that. You can't stay sane and stay in that situation of having your life threatened. Your mind splits, and this is called Stockholm Syndrome. And what happened was, true story, 6 days later, okay, those people were locked in that place, in that vault, with the criminals for 6 days. There were two of them, two criminals. When they released the people, this is what's going to blow your mind. When they released the people from the situation, they saved them, right? The tellers who were being held hostage would not prosecute the criminals. In fact, they held fundraisers so that the criminals would have money to defend themselves for the case. The hostages defended the captors, the aggressors. They would not prosecute them. Why? That's the syndrome. Why? Are you ready? About to explain it to you. The 1973 Stockholm bank robbery merely gave the technique its public name, but the method itself is older than the scriptures. This is the key phrase. The method is brutally simple. The aggressor abuses the victim daily while claiming the beatings are deserved punishment for disobedience. Follow. The aggressor abuses the victim daily while claiming the beatings are deserved punishment for disobedience. So they've got the hostages in there, and they're telling them, listen, if you don't do exactly what we say, we're going to beat the hell out of you, just like we beat the hell out of that guy. We're going to do the same thing to you. Okay? This is how, so you know you're stuck, and they can't get out, and they're being held at gunpoint. And then the person, the hostage, then understands, okay, by obeying, here it is, here's the line right here. By disobeying and not doing what the captors tell them to do, In the religious case, this is called deserved punishment, is reflected daily in the sinner's mind as they navigate life expecting reproof from God for any misdeeds. So you have, juxtapose these two things. You have the hostages that are in the room, and they have to obey the captors, the aggressors. And if they don't obey, they get punished. So if they get punished, they then think, because they're in this crazy situation, I deserve it because I disobeyed. I didn't do what that person said. I disobeyed. So I deserve the punishment that I'm getting because I didn't follow orders. Do you see how now the victim is taking on the values of the punisher? Remember, they're out of their mind. They're in a traumatic situation. They're not thinking clearly. This isn't supposed to be like, oh, that totally makes sense. No, it's supposed to be psychotic. That's Stockholm syndrome. These people are defending their captors. Why would they do that? Okay, it's because they have taken on the values of their captors. They believe that they deserve to be punished if they disobey because they're in this trauma situation. They're not thinking with reason and common sense. They're thinking of an escape valve. I take on the values of the abuser and therefore I'm not stressed anymore. Okay, I know they're not going to hurt me because I'm not going to do anything that's disobedient. I'm going to obey. So the person has relief, a temporary relief of, okay, I can at least sit here and know they're not going to attack me right now because I'm not going to disobey. So as long as I obey, I do as they say, I'm good. So then they relate, not panicking, not being in a state of terror as much because they've alleviated it. They have assuaged the situation temporarily by obeying. Now, do you see where this is going? Do you see what's happening? Same thing happens with the Christian. Follow. If you simply say the verses, if you simply believe correctly, if you simply do as the Bible tells you, you're good. You're safe. You're all good. No worries for you. All you have to do is obey. And so the sinner integrates the mind that's in the Bible. And the mind that's in the Bible says, you're a sinner. You deserve punishment. You absolutely deserve punishment because you're a sinner. You're fallen from God. You're separate from God. The Bible is divvying out the rules of the situation. And the rules of the situation are untenable because they don't allow you to think authentically as a natural human being. These ultimatums are forcing you into particular belief, forcing you into a particular understanding that doesn't have any reason, but it doesn't matter because you're under force. You're under leverage. You're being blackmailed. That's why this is happening. During the time that the tellers were in there, once they started obeying and they alleviated that initial fear and terror of having the gun, the guys are not holding the gun at them anymore because they've said, okay, we'll obey, we'll do everything that you say. And so then you have 6 days of time. 6 days of sitting in there with your captors with nothing but silence. And so what began to happen in the story is the captors, the hostages, began to have conversations with their captors, with the aggressors. And the aggressors told them all of these stories. You know, I grew up in a tough house. I grew up in crime. My dad was a full-blown alcoholic. My mom was a drug addict. And I lived in poverty. I lived fighting for my life from age 7. And I was molested and destroyed by my neighbors and people around me. And my life has been hell. Okay. The hostages then thought, this is all true. The hostages then had empathy for the aggressors and started to have empathy for their plight. Like, you know what? If I was you, I probably would have robbed a bank. I probably would have held hostages just like you. I probably would have done the same thing because my life was so rotten, just like if my life was as rotten as yours. And so what began to happen is the hostages began to have empathy for the plight of the aggressors. Do you see what's happening now? They're obeying. They're alleviating the tension by obeying. And now they're developing empathy because they're standing there talking to these people who are holding them captive. And that is causing this syndrome to manifest because the people that are in there are deranged in the mind because I'm not blaming them. I'm saying because of their situation. Because of their situation. They can't escape. And so the mind, in order to alleviate the stress, to remove the terror and trauma, begins to build relationship with the captor and begins to take on the captor's values and identity naturally, as a way to alleviate the stress and lower the trauma so that the situation is not as untenable. It's more reasonable. Do you see? Do you see what's happening here? Okay. All right. Continuing. This self-condemns the mind into the idea one is deservedly separate. This is the Christian now, because the Christian has taken on the values of Yahweh. And so the Christian thinks themselves as deservedly separate, desperate to the end. The truth of being separate from God deeply internalizes the claim, I deserve this. And so what do you know? Every single sinner says they deserve punishment. They deserve hell. It's Jesus that saved them. They deserved it. They have taken on the values of Yahweh. They have taken on the values of Jesus, who says, I am the way, truth, and life, only way to the Father, but through me. Yahweh says, you must have sacrifice. You must sacrifice in order to know me. Jesus says, I am the sacrifice. I am the grace. I am the reason. Do you see? And this person is taking on these ideas, these values about themselves, the world, and spirituality as though it's law, because they're in an untenable position. They're going to hell if they don't believe this stuff. And so your reasoning is gone. Your total objectivity is flushed because you're being held by the neck. You're being held by the neck and saying, you obey or you're done. And so that person takes on that. Okay, I'll obey. Okay, I see it. Yes, I'm totally falling. Yes, I do sin. I know I'm a sinner because I make mistakes all the time. You're right. I deserve hell. And they got all of these ideas by someone telling them these ideas. These didn't come out of the baby that came out of the womb. And 2 years later, they're talking about Jesus being a sinner, needing to be saved, talking about the devil coming to get him. That baby's not talking like that unless they're trained like that. And this is what the Catholic Church did. They imposed this hostage situation on the masses, put them under threat, said, believe this or you're going to burn in hell, and we're going to carry out the murder if you don't follow. Threat. And the entire mass public takes on the values of Yahweh, takes on the values of this dominator religion, takes on the values of the Catholic Church as though it's truth. And the Catholic Church says, we're the final authority. It is truth. We're the voice of God. Who are you to question? And you don't even have the book to see for yourself because it's not in your own language. You're listening to the translator, who's also the judge. Do you see a problem here? Do you see a conflict of interest going on here? Do you see an inhumane situation going on here? In this mental act, the convert takes on the values of Yahweh, the aggressor. The psychic pressure recedes in the imagined moment of connection as the victim takes on the values of the aggressor. That's the assuagement. The aggressor then is no longer seen as the monster. The monster's been assuaged. He is the unrelenting teaching agent, the reluctant punisher, the only one who can love someone despite there being a sinner, which means you have to believe you're a sinner to get the grace, which means it ain't grace. That's the logic and reasoning that abandons the Christian because they have taken on the values of the aggressor. Logic and reasoning is gone now because you can't deny that, man. You can't deny that word. That's what Jesus said, pal. You can't deny that. This is why the Catholic Church made Jesus God. You can't disclaim, you cannot deny the words of God. This is how you reinforce, you put into place the egregore. I'm showing it to you. The aggressor is then no longer seen as the monster. He's the unrelenting teaching agent. You see, this is what the sinner thinks. Jesus, God, is the unrelenting teaching agent. He's the reluctant punisher. Yahweh's the reluctant punisher. He doesn't want to punish. Yes, he does. But see, the person who has Stockholm syndrome will think, no, actually, he doesn't. He actually loves me, just like those hostages thought in that room. These people actually care for me. They're just acting like this because they have to. They had this bad life. They've had this bad life. They have no choice. So I have to be treated this way. God has no choice. I'm a sinner. I'm fallen. I make mistakes. I'm separate from God. He doesn't have a choice. He doesn't have a choice. I'm the one. I'm the one that's doing it. It's my fault. Do you see the psychosis? Do you see the self-blame? Do you see the shaming? Do you see the blaming? Ask yourself, why is the truth of God being delivered in that package of blaming, self-shame, authored grace, which isn't grace, because you know who did it. True grace is you never know who did it. If it was true grace that was exuded by Jesus hanging on the cross, no one would even have to say the prayer. No one would even have to know his name. No one would even have to worry about Christianity. Because it's grace. It's a gift. It's a gift. So you don't have to believe correctly. If it's grace, you don't have to believe correctly. You don't have to follow a particular religion. You've been given the gift. Why are you know? Do you follow? There's illogic strewn through all of it. Through all of it. And it's crazy talk. And when you begin to take it apart for what it is, you begin to see the crazy talk. You begin to see how crazy it is. You begin to see, I am in a syndrome believing this. I am in a syndrome taking the blame on and thinking that I deserve hell. I'm in a syndrome believing that. In the same way, the hostages, you're in a syndrome thinking those people have your best interest in mind and care about you because they're telling you about their past. No, they don't. They're biding time. They're keeping you suppressed so that you shut up and obey. Do you follow? This is what the Catholic Church is doing. The technique causes an abused person to equate punishments they inculcate daily as justice served. The abuse is then internalized as appropriate and warranted. The convert will now regard the punishing fist as the hand that saves. Ouch. Ouch. The convert, the Christian, will now regard the punishing fist of Yahweh as the hand that saves. Why? Why? Because they think they're a sinner and need to be saved. The perspective's the problem. They're enchanted with the idea that they think they deserve it. Who told them they deserved it? Not the Bible. Those who assembled the Bible. Those who wrote the Bible. Deeper insight, friend. Deeper truth. This keeps you from being taken by it. Next. Conditioned to cope, not to emerge. The perspective shift in integration of the aggressor's values is the psychosomatic. That's the mind to action. Psycho meaning mind, somatic meaning meat. Essence, the mind to action, the psychosomatic flip that releases the tension of the situation. This is fostered by an incoherent empathy felt by the victim towards the aggressor's plight. The aggressor must punish because the victim deserves it. That's the coping mechanism in full career. The coping mechanism is the Christian when they say, I deserve it. Thank God for Jesus and grace, because I deserve it. They have taken on the mechanism and the cope that goes with the mechanism. What's the mechanism? Christianity. What's the cope? Authored grace, being saved, identifying with Jesus, identifying not as yourself, identifying as a sinner. It's all a mechanism to cope with a situation that has been put on you. It's been put on you. You were told this. You were informed of these things and you believed it. That's why you have to get yourself out. You have to do it. You can't save yourself. Someone can't come and save you. You must save yourself. You must save yourself. And remember, you're not doing any saving when you're coping, right? You're not doing any saving. This is why there's been no development in Christianity and spiritual religion in the West for thousands of years. It's because everybody's coping. Nobody's growing. Everybody's coping. Because these religions, Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, are coping mechanisms. They allow you, they help you to cope with the situation they inculcate into you. It's a coping mechanism. It's a cope. Believing that you're a sinner and that you're saved and going to heaven is a cope for the situation you think you're in. You're enchanted. Those hostages in that room, it's a cope when they think those people aren't going to harm me. We're talking about their past, their childhood. They're totally nice. They actually have my best interest in mind. That person is coping. That none of that is true. Those people will kill them if they disobey. None of that is real. None of that is real. What they are telling them is a lie. This is your world situation. Everything you're being told is a lie. The cope that you're integrating is based on enchantment. It's not real. The world is a paradise. You've been put into the idea that it's a purgatory. That's why you take on coping mechanisms and more cope to deal with your impossible situation that you think you're in, because you were told that. You were told to believe that about the world. You were told to believe this degenerated idea of the world and yourself. You were convinced of it. And you were convinced of it through the natural growing process, which is we make mistakes. That's called being a human being. We make mistakes. And they took that. The Catholic Church took that idea and said, because you make mistakes the rest of your life, we're going to hinge on that as a way to put ultimatum upon you, to make you think that has eternal issues. If you steal that candy bar, you deserve to burn in hell. We're going to put that idea into you so that then you'll take on the cope we hand you, so that then you don't feel like so that then you don't believe you're going to hell. You think you're going to heaven. We'll put the cope right in. That's the Hegelian dialectic in it. Continuing. This is how a person is taught into abuse, how a programmer programs abuse into the individual. Watch. When the programmer, the aggressor says, this hurts me more than it hurts you, right? And then the person who is receiving the abuse says, this hurts him more than it hurts me. That's when it's taken. I have no choice because you disobeyed. And it's the person who's in the cope that says, he has no choice because I disobeyed. There's no other way, and you know it, the abuser says. And then the victim reciprocates, yes, there is no other way, and I know it. I'm forced to do this because I am just and you are dirty. You see, and the victim believes that. I am dirty. You deserve this because you were born this way. And then the sinner, the Christian, reciprocates. I deserve this because I was born this way. You see, they're compliant. Look at the image on the right here. The external says you were born this way. I have no choice. The internal says I deserve it. I am the disobedient one. You guys follow this? Are you guys seeing the psychology? This is how it takes. This is how it gets into you. We're going to go to chat here in a minute. Perfecting the trap. Christianity perfects the trap by installing a threatened identity before the convert ever realizes they have been coerced. This is a child. The child never realizes that they've been coerced in the idea that the only form of positive energy is in the form of Jesus or Yahweh. They don't realize that you can't costume that. The perception of oneself in the world is limited to the religious construct. You are a sinner in a doomed world, separate from God, already under sentence of hell, already hunted by a devil who never sleeps. You're late in the game, so submission is the only option. The over-threatened mind is then transferred into the identity of the sinner, and that's how it happens. Over-threatened. Too much. Logic collapses under fear. Self-trust evaporates. You cannot fully love what you cannot fully trust, so you cannot love yourself. There's some more logic and psychology for you. Alan Watts called this the unavoidable double bind. The sinner cannot trust his own opinion that he is a sinner, and yet is required by the dogma to deny this logic to assure a forgiving God. The loop is perfectly airtight, right? Because you can't trust a sinner, can you? A sinner can't be trusted, and the sinner knows this. But yet, the sinner must believe their own opinion, the sinner's opinion that they are a sinner, and therefore they're in a state of illogic. This is why there's no escape. This is what I mean by there's been no spiritual development in the West for thousands of years. This is one of the reasons why. There's no developing thought. It's just a repetition. I deserve it. I'm saved by God's grace. By God, thank God I'm saved by the grace of Jesus. And you stay in that space. You're still saying that at 99 when you were saying it at 9. You're still saying the same thing. Thank God I'm saved by the grace of Jesus. There's no development. There's no mind expansion going on. It's simply assuaging the blame, trying to stay not sinful, trying to live this moral, healthy life for Jesus, going to church, doing the deal. Right? Right? That's what life becomes. No development. Still doing the same rigmarole. Still going to church on Sunday. Still going to Bible study on Wednesday. Right? Still singing in the church choir. Still hanging out with the church members. Still doing the church activities. Still giving to the church fund. Nothing changes. Friend, the Romans were doing that 2,000 years ago. We're doing the same thing that you're doing. Believing the same thoughts, coming to the same conclusions, thinking about God the same way. There is absolutely no development. Have you noticed that in Zen, we're sort of developing sort of our own version of Zen? Have you noticed that? It's not quite, right alongside with the way it's always been put, in the same way that Theravada Buddhism has, it's been a little adjusting over time. It hasn't stayed hardcore the same thing. This is normal. This is normal. Do you see? Do you see? And over time, you make these little adjustments to develop and grow, And Christianity doesn't do that. It's always the same lines, the same prayers, the same assumptions, the same ideas of God, the same ideas about yourself. There is no growth. Plain as day. And this is why. The overthreatened mind is then transferred into the identity of the sinner, and logic collapses under fear, and self-trust evaporates, and you cannot fully love what you cannot fully trust. So you cannot love yourself. This is another thing the Christian doesn't know. Sorry, I read that. Christianity fosters Stockholm syndrome by implanting imagined inescapable, because again, it's presented as inescapable. You're a sinner. You can't escape that. De facto illusions, and that's the way it's presented. This is the way it is, matter of fact, that go along with believing one is a sinner. It was designed this way to apply unrelenting, unavoidable psychic pressure on both the non and converted, so to remove them from a reasonable cause, like we've been talking about, and coerce compliant ones into a fear reactive state. These are the people that are not holding the ball. They get behind the ball because they believe. Belief puts you behind the wall. The one that's inspired and working from the heart holds the ball. In other words, a ceaselessly threatening state. And I mean, just think about the media today. Think of how the media holds everyone in a ceaselessly threatened state. Why are they doing that? It keeps you in the panic state. It keeps you grabby. It keeps you from reasoning. It makes you angry. And what have I told you guys 1,000 times? If anyone can make you angry, if anyone can frustrate you, they're controlling you. They're controlling you. That's why every time you see a ranting, crazy person on YouTube or the news media that's screaming at the top of their lungs and going absolutely berserk, understand that person is not in control of their faculties. They're in the reactive state. They're in the reactive state. And as long as you're in the reactive state, you're under the control of whoever got you into that state, because you're not under control of your own responses, your own emotions. Leveraging anxiety. Stockholm syndrome is an offspring of the psychic prohibitions imposed by the doctrines of the religion. Lack of self-trust traumatizes the psyche into internal disequilibrium, so the sinner is always asking permission, seeking approval, and expecting reproof from God. Are they not? Those are the ideas of a slave. They pray without ceasing. They confess sins daily. They rededicate their life to Jesus seasonally. This is the mind of an anxious slave coping with their predicament. And since we did not come here to endlessly cope or be slaves, setting the psyche to a sinner's identity leverages these exact discontinuities, which is called anxiety. And what is that? Look at this. This is an anxious person, the person who's always asking permission, seeking approval, expecting reproof from God, praying without ceasing, confessing sins daily, rededicating their life to Jesus seasonally. The reactive life, the reactive mind, doing as told, obeying, following orders. That's why there's no growth. That's why there's no growth. That's why the 99-year-old man is doing that same routine that the 9-year-old is doing. Same routine. Nothing changes. No growth. You never leave it. The whole point of Eastern philosophy is to leave those teachings eventually, because you've integrated them. You've moved into the state of the master. You've integrated them. Moving on. Let's learn more. Moving on. No longer holding to these images. No longer holding to those ideas. Moving on. Developing on. Just like a good relationship is always moving forward. not stuck in the same routines all the time, doing the same things all the time, saying the same things all the time, you would know that's an unhealthy relationship and you wouldn't want to be in it. Why are you doing that in your religion? Saying the same prayers, asking for the same armor, asking for the same hedges of protection, asking for the same will to be worked out, asking for God to help you see his will, asking for Jesus to come and help you, asking for Jesus to come into your life, asking for Jesus to be a more part of your life. Same psychology over and over and over again. It never changes. That's why you pray without ceasing. You rededicate your life seasonally. That's why it's happening. This is the state of anxiety. In this way, then, Christianity instigates a form of self-generated lack, which yokes convert to an unpalatable identity, namely being a sinner, and an unsatisfying, imagined relation to a conflict-oriented, atonement-demanding God. I am laying it out so clear for you guys. Let's go to questions, see if you guys have any comments. Holy smokes, we have almost 1,000 comments. Here we go. I'm going to the bottom for those who have questions. I'm going to the bottom. Matt just wrote here, brilliant point. Thanks, Matt. The master appears when the student is ready. When the student is done, the master disappears. Exactly. You move on. You move on. Chuck, how do you think the book of Revelation was composed that we see what we see now? Because the controllers wrote it. Control script of top-level evil came to, yes. Because, guys, listen, guys, think about it. Who wrote the Bible? Who assembled it? The Catholic Church. What's the Catholic Church? The KM. They wrote Revelation because they knew that was their plan. This is how you get everybody to go along with it. Teach all the masses that they're totally screwed, that Jesus is coming because they're just a bunch of sinners. Jesus is coming back, and we're going to have to throw out all the ones that didn't believe right. So right into this thing, the whole tribulation is how it goes down. Write it all out. So they all see it and they'll believe it. This is called the egregore. So then we lay it on them and say, listen, folks, if you don't believe us, if you don't become a Christian, this is the hell that's awaiting you. Tribulation is coming. You better be on the right side. Who wrote that? The controllers. The Order of the Black Snake. That's why the world is like this right now. This has been planned. This has been planned since they assembled Christianity. It's a ploy. The whole thing. Let's go to comments here. The caps here. Chuck, I tell Christians who try to, if you have a question for me, put it in all caps. Chuck, I tell Christians who try to reconvert me that if their Bible says I am made in the image of God, then why do I need these things? Most of them look stunned. Yeah. Anytime here, listen. Anytime you start talking psychology, logic, reason, the very things I'm telling you guys tonight, okay, this is why I'm telling you it, so that you can put this in your arsenal. The whole reason for doing that is for teaching you psychology. The Christian doesn't understand psychology. You won't be a Christian if you understand psychology. You won't, because you'll understand that is an untenable philosophy. It's an untenable philosophy. Believing you're a sinner and you're prone to wander and leaving God. I mean, how much you're going to grow believing that about yourself? Believing it comes from outside you. You got to pray all the time. You got to ask permission, seek approval, and expect reproof. Any psychologist will know there's no growth there. That person is going to stay a child psychologically their whole life. They'll never know outside that box. Any good psychologist will see that. Okay. This is why we're doing this. Because when you talk about psychology with the Christian, you will leave them at the bus stop. You will leave them at the bus stop because they're not oriented to logic. They're oriented to terror. They're oriented to fear. They're motivated by the fact that I'm believing right, so I'm not going to hell. I'm believing right, so I get to have a relationship with God that you can't. They're living in terms of ultimatum. They're in a small mind. So when you learn psychology, which expands your mind, you expand past the psychology that the Christian has, which is very childish, it's very small, it's very little. God is this. The world is this. The tribulation is coming. We believe this. We follow this. We take the orders from this God. We follow these verses. This is romper room spirituality. Romper room. Everybody obey, do as you're told, fall in line. There's no spirituality there. None. This is romper room. And so when you approach the Christian with real psychology, they will not be able to stand with you. I did that to a church psychologist once. I brought to this person who was a trained, master degree in psychology. I brought the psychology I'm bringing you today, left him at the bus stop. He wished he'd never talked to me because I showed him the psychology. And once you see it, you can't not see it. It's just like the magician's trick. And that's what we're doing right now. I'm showing you the magician's trick. Chuck, how do you think the book of Revelation? There we go. I already read that. Next, all caps. Excellent explanation. I have a book, The Perennial Philosophy by Aldous Huxley, saying the very same. Exactly. That comes out of Bastian. Bob, my buddy. That comes out of Bastian, my friend. Adolf Bastian, The Perennial Philosophy. This is how you take apart. This is how you take apart the Christian. Nicely. You don't have to be mean. This is just basic psychology. It's like, is a psychologist being mean when they tell you you're a codependent? No, they're not being mean at all. They're rendering you truth so that you can free yourself. And that's exactly what I'm doing today. I'm rendering you psychology so that you can free yourself from this religious obscenity that's been put on you. Believing you're a sinner, believing you're separate from God, believing the world is fallen, believing that the tribulation's coming, believing that you're finished, believing that there's no hope. These are atrocities that have been put onto you. And because you believed them, they've become egregores. They become truth. That's why they're truth, because you believed them. Continuing. Hey, thanks, Leon. Love it, friend. Love it. Nice. Sweetness. Thank you, friend. Sweetness. Thank you so much. I'm going to post my Archaics video soon. Thank you so much. Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's continue then. No, you call me Chuck or Charles. It's all right. Doesn't matter. Chuck or Charles, I'll get. I'm not particular on that stuff. Good line. Thank you, Thomas. Good line. Good line. Can you break down the human genetic modifications, the DNA modifications? Ask me that at the end of the session. I'm going to continue on this, and then I will. But yeah, they tied the I think it's number 2, the DNA number 2, or I can't remember the name of it, the chromosome number 2. They tied 2 telomeres end to end, and that's how you know that we were manipulated by aliens, because that doesn't happen in nature. It doesn't happen in nature. Here we go. Well, I mean, in a way, no, that's a label. You're a being. You're a spiritual being. You're a spiritual truth. You're a manifestation of God. So you're truth incarnate. So if you don't want to refer yourself to a human, then consider yourself truth incarnated. You are the truth of the universe. You are the truth of sacred geometry. You are the truth of the self-organizing aspect of the world, of the universe. You are a manifestation of that. That's why the church wanted you to think that you were less than, so that you would never know that you're a manifestation of truth, so that you would never realize that you're in a paradise, not a purgatory. The church put you in a purgatory by claiming that the world is fallen, that tribulation is coming, that you're a sinner, right? And so by understanding this, you release yourself from it, and you realize, no, I'm truth incarnate. I'm not the labels put onto me by the church. I'm not the identity, the identity handed to me by the Pope. I'm not. That's not your truth, because your truth can't be put into words. You're beyond that. And this is how you know it, because you experience your truth. But you could never tell someone what your truth is. That's something that you know inside through your heart. You see? And this is what the dog can't do. This is what higher consciousness brings about. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Here we go. These basic ways we have been psychologically down. You're welcome, Gail. You're welcome. Happy to do it. He went into the cognitive dissonance at the bus stop. Exactly. Exactly. Okay, shall we keep going? Hey, DDP, you're not saying psychology can explain all the supernatural stuff we experience, but it can explain why people... Exactly, DDP. I am not saying psychology is the spiritual answer. I'm saying psychology is a material tool, a scientific tool that you can understand and realize, right, in your own head, right, to then assuage or remove the dogmas, right? But you're only going to be able to remove the dogmas if you realize a higher truth. In order to see through the dogma, right, you have to not only fully understand the dogma, but understand why there is that dogma. Why is that dogma there? And if you think that dogma is there because you're fallen, you see you're still lost. But if you realize that dogma is there because controllers wanted you to believe that dogma so that then you would act out that dogma, then the dogma loses its power. You have to have the deeper insight. You must realize that. No one can hand that to you. You have to realize that. And that releases you from the egregore, the beliefs that the threats from the church put on you. That's how they got you to integrate the threat, by putting it on you and saying your only relief is the one that we are now giving you. That's the Hegelian dialectic, that we are giving you. The perpetrator, the aggressor, is handing the people that they are deceiving and harming the answer. Just like the medical industry. They said, hey, you got a problem. You're going to get this disease. And unless you do as we say, you get this shot, you're screwed. It's the same thing. They got everyone, or a lot of people, hundreds of millions of people, to get that shot because they were afraid. Why were they afraid? They didn't see through. They didn't see why they're telling you to get the shot. They believed them when they said, oh, we're doing this for your best interest. We're doing this because we love you. We're doing this because we care. We're doing this so that everyone doesn't get sick. No. And if you believe that, you see you're in the egregore and you'll go get the shot. And you'll say to your family member, are you crazy not getting the shot? The hell's the matter with you? You should get this shot. See? And the person who didn't get it sees the lie that that person is in and sees it for themselves. This is the picture of the Matrix when what's his name? Not Eno. Neo. When Neo stands up in the tomb, he's basically, and he sees the tens of thousands of people that are all still sleeping, and he sees, this is why they're doing this. This is the truth. Oh my God. That's it. That's how you escape the religion, when you see through it. But you must understand its psychology, why it is doing what it is doing in order to see through it. If you believe that it's doing because of what the authorities told you, you will not understand it and you will believe it. But if you see why that was put there, then you won't believe it, because then you'll understand, that's a control mechanism to keep me from using my reason, to keep me from using good, deep psychology, to keep me from falling into that, to keep me from believing it. And this is why there's such threat imposed. There's such imposition imposed upon you to believe it, because they got to get you to believe it. It's the only way that you're going to become passive. It's the only way that you'll become stagnant, because only you can stagnate yourself. Only you can make yourself passive. You do that. You see, and you do that by bad psychology, capturing psychology, Stockholm syndrome psychology. Continuing. They pray without. We read all that. In this way, then Christianity instigates a form of self-generated lack, which yokes the convert to an unpalatable identity and an unsatisfying imagined relation to a conflict-oriented, atonement-demanding God. The sinner sees themselves spiritually through juxtaposition. This is some good psychology here about every Christian is a codependent, and this is why. Each of the sister religions initiate a codependence upon Jesus, Allah, and Yahweh to set one's integrity, identity, and ideological positioning. And like any codependent relationship, the sinner then only allows themselves to feel by comparison to their God. That's classic codependence. A codependent can only feel happy if their partner's happy. Will feel sad. It will only feel sadness if their partner is sad. Will get angry if their partner is angry. They validate themselves through their partner. What is the Christian doing all the time? Validating themselves, their relationship to Jesus every day, praying without ceasing every day. They're codependent. Watch, follow, watch, I'm going to unfold it. The sinner then becomes addicted to the spiritual dynamisms that go along with any codependent relationship. Inherent instability, which is the asking permission, seeking approval, and expecting reproof. That's the psychology of the instability. Now, you know why I say inherent instability? This is the psychology, because they're anxious. They're asking permission, seeking approval, and expecting reproof. This is the anxious slave. How am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? How am I doing? Adlerian psychology. No self-understanding. So constantly asking, how am I doing? How am I doing, Jesus? How am I doing, God? How am I doing, Pastor? How am I doing, accountability partner? How am I doing? How am I doing? The Christian is filled with lack. They think they're a sinner. They think it comes from outside them. Here's the psychology. They're codependent. Incoherence. God is outside and separate. So now you have an incoherence between you and the ineffable, and incredible dynamisms of highs and lows, inherent myths and good deeds that leverage one's closeness to God. And this is the dynamism that the codependent feeds off of in a fouled up codependent relationship. The fighting gives meaning to the relationship. So they engage this person in this codependent way, even if it involves fighting, because at least they're communicating. And this is the subconscious who feels distant from that person trying to connect. And so they will engage in a fighting attitude, or they will engage in a blaming attitude. And this codependent couple will just go back and forth through these socialistic dynamisms. And that feeds the relationship and keeps it going and seems to give them purpose, because eventually they work it out. And then you have the high that happens after you work it out and you make love and everything's okay. And it's this angry love dynamism that is addictive. And this is exactly what happens as a Christian. I sinned. I need God's love and grace and forgiveness. Okay, I got it. I feel so much relief. 2 days go by. Oh, I sinned so terribly. I need God's love and grace and forgiveness. Okay, I got it. Okay, I feel good now. Up and down. Feel the love, absent from love. Feel the love, absent from love. This is the Christian. That's why they're constantly fidgeting with the relationship, because it's never stable, because it's based on lack. They're a sinner. It's a fallen world. It's just a matter of taking apart the psychology, and the whole thing renders itself. And like I said months ago, once you realize what these Western religions do to you, Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, you will run. You will run from them as fast as you can possibly run, because you will see how damaging it is to a person. Harm, pure, unadulterated harm under the disguise of love. It will also help you understand that there's no way anyone but the Khazarian mafia invented something like this. Of course it came from the order of a black snake. Look at what it does to people. They never grow. They stay in an adolescent psychology. They stay unaware of who they are. They stay unaware of the world, thinking it's something that it's not. They stay asking permission, seeking approval, and expecting reproof, because they have the mentality of a slave. But they just don't know it. They haven't awakened yet. So they stay. Same reason that person drove themselves to the hospital and got a freaking jab. They don't know any better. They're unaware of the psychology being done to them. And trust me, the Catholic Church has been doing this religious psychology to you since 325. Brothers and sisters, this is a 2,000-year-old psyop, and people still haven't seen it. Even C.S. Lewis didn't see it. And he's considered to be one of the most brilliant Christians who have ever lived. And he never saw this basic psychology. Folks, I am not telling you rocket science. This is stuff you can follow. Look at these slides. You can follow this stuff. Western religion confronts the world by choosing sides, insisting beliefs, and commandeering assuagement. Chuck, what does assuagement mean? To make an unpleasant feeling less intense. What is a coping mechanism? What is a coping mechanism? The sinner not feeling so bad about themselves because today they get to feel Jesus' forgiveness. That's a coping mechanism. They pray for a hedge of protection and believe that they're being protected. That's a coping mechanism. They believe, well, that person is going to go to hell for all their sins, but I'm going to heaven and I've got my eternity secured and I'm on the right team. Coping mechanism. They're coping. They're coping because they know it's inhumane to say that person's going to hell and I'm going to heaven. But they're in a cope. They're not thinking straight. They're thinking inhumanely. So they refer to these people as less than, you're going to hell. You didn't believe right. Tough beans. That's inappropriate. And you get like that when you're in a cope. When you're coping, you become inhumane because you're not aligned to your authentic humanness. You're aligned to a belief. You're aligned to a thought. You're aligned to Maya, illusions, the untruth. And so you're not centered in your own truth and you behave and act inappropriately, inhumanely, because you are not centered on your truth. You're centered on a social institution. You are a nature creature. You are not a social creature. You are a nature creature. And it is the nature world, the nature essence that's going to align you, not a social institution. A social institution will align you socially. You are not a social institution. You are a nature creature. You're a nature creature, friend. You are not socially oriented. You are oriented to nature. And until you see this, you'll continue to depend. You'll continue to be codependent on the social institution. It can't be any other way because you're doing it. And until you see it, you're going to stay there, friend. You're going to stay there just like I did for 40 years, thinking that I had it, thinking that I had the answers, thinking that I had the correct God, that I was the one who knew. On the other hand, Eastern spiritual notions unite the world rather than confront the world through contrasts of wonder, endless mind expansion, and unabashed release. What is the story of Christianity? Unabashed, holding, gripping. That's called belief. Because it is belief that gets you into heaven. It's all about belief. And what do we know about belief? Anti-faith position. There's no faith in belief. So again, we have all of these Christians who think they are subscribing to a spiritual faith, and they're not. There's no faith there. None. It's all about believing correctly, which has nothing to do with faith. But you see, the Christian is a child psychologically. They do not understand these deeper concepts. That's why they run from them, reject them, and are afraid of them, because it confronts their humanity. And they have based their humanity in a social institution. And that leaves you in the state of fear, lack, and asking fucking permission. Sorry, that slipped. Sorry. And asking permission. And as long as you stay there, friend, as long as you stay there, you will stay there. You'll never leave. Your mind will never expand. You'll never expand. Sorry about the F-bomb. Sorry, did not mean to do that. That slipped out. Perception is everything. Shrinking the universe into values based on conflict and assuagement limits your perception, isolates your consciousness, and devalues your experienced truth. Complying to short-sighted concepts that equate the world to a blasphemed idea of nature compromises human psychological development. Why? Based, toxic, religious assumptions paralyze a love for oneself and the world. Look at this picture. Look at it. The picture of the Christian is on the left of the picture, the right in the photo, the purple shirt. Because it's all about obedience. You must obey, right? Obedience gets you closer to God. Believing correctly gets you in the right group. You're separated, right? And the only way you're not separated is if you're obeying. You're in the right group. Conflict oriented. There are people that are in group and out group. So it puts you in a conflict with anyone who's in the out group. And then the center. That's your identity. Whereas you look here on the gentleman in the yellow shirt, look, he's basing his life on these other perspectives. Faith, because there's no faith in Christianity. Faith, trust. You don't trust anything in Christianity. You'll trust yourself. Absolutely not. You can't trust a sinner. But this person has trust because they're acting upon their own faith, their own truth within themselves. You see, wonder, the world is a wonder, and perfection. You can't put the world into words, right? But you can. The Christian world, the whole thing is composed of words. And then perfection. If you see the world as a purgatory and assume the world is a purgatory, guess what world you're going to live in? A purgatory world. If you see the world as perfection, just as it is, exactly as it is, what world are you going to live in? A world of perfection, because that's how you see it. The world becomes what you believe it to be. Just like it says right here. The world becomes whatever you believe it to be. This results in awareness constricted by devalued perspectives at the most basic level. And so the world becomes the devalued perspective instructed. Shrink nature into the values of a social order, and by God, the social context will be the only life experienced. How could it be otherwise? We only see as far as awareness permits. So perspective is everything. This is why it is so important for us as individuals. Here's the call to action for you guys. For us as individuals in a society to transcend conflict-oriented systems of belief. So to expand our perspective past the blasphemed versions handed to us by dominator culture, child predators, and God-eaters. The way out is not to argue with the doctrines. Key. This is why you'll never convert a Christian out of Christianity through an argument, through winning an argument. You are going to win the Christian out of their Christianity by showing them a deeper truth, not arguing. You must show them a deeper truth. You must ask the question. It's the Platonic idea of learning. You teach through asking questions. You teach by asking probing questions that they can't escape. And this then causes their mind to leave the normalcy and think outside the box. That's why when I said last week that prayer is narcissism, I caused a lot of you a tremendous amount of not only anger at me, but anxiety, because it's an active daily part of your life. And the last thing you want to hear is me to say that. But you see, it is those kinds of statements that break you out of your normal thought patterns, your go-to, the what you always do, which keep you from growing. When you always are referring back to the same paths, the same way, you're not growing. You're not growing. You're just returning back and claiming the same false egregores, the same false ideas about yourself in your prayers. You're asking for this hedge of protection, not realizing that you are the hedge of protection. You're asking to understand God's will when it is your instinct, your drives and art, which is what drives your life and becomes the will. Do you see? It's simply seeing these things more and more deeply, and then you will escape the traps. And this is what awakens humanity. And this is why the Great Awakening will go at the pace of awakening. And now you guys are understanding by seeing this psychology why the world can't suddenly wake up. Think of how long it took you, those of you that see this, think of how long it took you to get there. I just wrote this. I wrote this over the past 2 days, what I've been reading to you guys today. I wrote this over the past 2 days, and you need to understand it took me 55 years to get to that point. I'm 55 years old, and it took me 55 years of life experience to get to the place where I could see life in this way. True story. It's hard. It takes a long time. We change the world by changing the energy we bring to it. We must raise our vibration to the one we wish to be in. Higher vibration is not looking for us or coming to save us. We resonate and attract into higher vibration the bigger the love we grow into. Just like stretching a string to raise a fundamental pitch, raising your resonance starts with stretching the heartstrings to their potential. That's faith, that's risk, and that expansion creates a spiritually higher resonance pitch, like the spiritual rise effect you have when giving someone a gift or in playing or listening to your favorite music. This resonance attracts higher frequency. Does it not? Think of your spirit and how it lifts when you listen to music you love. This attracts higher frequency, spiritual essence, creating a high or rush effect that is visceral and tangible. We, in fact, experience this each Saturday, guys. This is what we're doing right now. Participating in mind expansion groups shifts one's attraction field from ignorance, ego, attachment, aversion, and fear, right? The kleshas, the 5 kleshas, to that of awareness. These are the antithesis of the 5 kleshas. This is what raising your vibration brings you. Awareness, grace,
release, acceptance, and love. Higher spin resonance generates larger fields of attraction, as was rendered by David Lynch a few weeks ago. So we are the ones that determine the direction of our lives because we create the reality we live. We, folks, we are the creators. That's what your imagination is. Your imagination is basically one of the most powerful forces in the entire universe. Your imagination. And so the last thing a controller wants is for you to use that because the imagination is unpredictable. No one can predict the imagination. And the last thing a controller wants is for you to think for yourself, to come up with your own ideas, because then you can't be controlled. You're thinking for yourself. And as long as you're thinking for yourself, you're not going to obey. You're not going to follow orders. You're not going to ask permission. You're not going to seek anyone's approval. You need no validation from anyone. And you're not going to do you're not going to seek outside yourself for an understanding. And the controllers want you constantly seeking outside yourself. They want you constantly asking them because they consider themselves and have told you that they're the authority. You see, and you know it's not true. You know it's not true. I think this is the final slide. Is this the final slide? Go to media assets. Here, where are we at? So second last, I think. We are the ones who hold the power, and it starts with your mind, the sword. This is why the air is the sword in tarot. It cuts through. The air can change shape and form at any time. And it's able to cut through previous ideas by shape-shifting, by shifting the form that's in your mind. That's the idea of air. It's important that you understand this. That's the sword that pierces. The one who thinks differently, that's the explosion. That's air. That's gas. It changes shape and form and temperature instantaneously. And this is the person who is using their mind as a sword to cut through the BS and to understand the world from a deeper perspective. That's the sword. You're cutting through the egregore. You're cutting through the lies using your mind, air, changing perspectives, changing temperature instantaneously the moment you see it. You see, that's why it's like that. That's why it's used in tarot like that. The mind can shift and change in a flash. Who you are does not. This is why the mind waves the flag while perspective waves the mind. Change your perspective and you wave or change your mind. Changing the mind changes your behavior, and this becomes your life. This is a part of the tale of what was it, Lao Tzu, I think. And he approached two students, and they were watching a flag wave. And Lao Tzu asked, "Is the flag waving in the wind, or is your mind waving?" And they answered incorrectly that it was the wind. It's not. It's your mind that moves the flag. Your mind moves the flag because that is perspective. Your mind moves the world. How much does the world move if your perspective is small? Doesn't move much. That's called stagnancy. The mind moves, changes with change of perspective because it is what is moving the world. Does it not? The world is what's in your mind, is it not? Okay, that's what this is pointing towards. So you change your perspective and you wave or change your mind. You see, changing the mind changes your behavior, and this becomes your life. So despite what every Western religion will tell you, we change, this is so critical, we change through perspectives of God, not beliefs in God. Ouch. Ouch. Understand? Because here's the hard fact. The elementary idea changes over time. Doesn't it though? The elementary idea, the idea that society has of God changes as that society expands. What is happening right now? The Great Awakening is happening. Society, the mind of society is expanding, right? This is going to usher in the change because the perspective is deepening of the collective. That is what is bringing about the Great Awakening. Perspective change. This is why you have to stop believing the media. You have to stop believing the institutions, the authorities that are telling you what the world is. They aren't telling you what the world is. They're programming you. They're programming you to think that's what the world is, but it's not.
You know and experience the world through your authentic state, which is the state not captured by beliefs. Good stuff, Maynard. Okay. We change through perspectives of God, not beliefs in God. We shape the expression of source as Parsifal did by releasing the reins. What I told you guys? The horse leads, the subconscious leads the way. So you must release. That's the doing. That's the I want, I need, I want, right? You let that go. You release the reins, moving from the intuitive and utilizing the power of the heart mind to manifest the world that you want. We, the creators, hold the ball. Therefore, we mold the powers of creation if we fearlessly grow a larger perspective than the one, if we fearlessly grow a larger perspective than the one the self-appointed authorities put into us. A larger perspective fosters a larger humane world. Conclusion, finally then, it is our responsibility, our call to action to engage this creative, intuitive power we carry to build and bring about a world centered on humane values, the betterment of one another, and love. We do this through awareness, you see, not through doing, through awareness and fearlessly taking on the challenges and risks necessary to grow our perspectives. The time has come to reimagine the world and manifest it the way we want it to be. The world becomes what we dare to dream, and we are done imagining ourselves into cages of stagnancy. Abandon Plato's cave, my friend. Walk into the light and liberate yourself. Good times, man. I wrote that this week. I'm very proud of that. Good times. Let's go to comments and see what you guys think, man. Let's see what you guys think. I'm going to go. There's so many comments. I'm just going to the bottom. I'm at the bottom. This was just posted. To understand the F-bomb when I realized that the lie that they offended. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean to let that slip. I did not mean to let that slip. Here we go. Yes, sheep no more. Bring it on. Bring it on. Sheep no more, baby. Thank you, DDP. Here we go. Oh, hey, Don, what's up, buddy? In my opinion, to escape the costume, we first acknowledge the false teachings in which we have been indoctrinated. Yes, that's called knowing the lie. My challenge is becoming more comfortable with flow and an idea of what may be while not knowing. Yeah, that is the trick, isn't it, Don? Let's talk about that at Zoom. Let's talk about that at Zoom. Thank you. Thank you so much, Scarabady. I know you meant Chuck. All good. Thank you so much. Here we go. I'm a therapist in private practice and want to add forks to my arsenal. My friend, if you watch today, you will. You might even be able to help an individual who's caught up in Christianity to awaken to what it really does to people. You actually got me out of bed for the first time. Good deal. Right on. Love it. That's fantastic. Yeah. If anybody wants to talk to me, great to bring this up right now, Stacy. Thank you so much. If you want to talk to me, I meet every Friday at 1 p.m. on Zoom, except this Friday. This Friday, we're meeting at 1 a.m. But normally, our Zooms meet on Friday at 1 p.m. Zoom time. So just so you know, if you want to talk to me one-on-one, I'm right there with my folks. I'm right there with you guys, all my nature creature family. We're all in this together. We're all in this together. Love you guys. Yes, I'm right there with you, Bob. We need to awaken. I hear you. I understand. I hear you. I understand. Hi, Thomas. Chuck, with your connections, is it possible to get this presentation slid in as 2 continuing education credits for pastors? Thomas, I love you, buddy. What a great question. Oh, my God. That is so good. Thank you. Yeah, I don't think Insight for Living is going to be posting this video anytime soon. And I don't think Dallas Theological Seminary is either. Even though I got one of their own graduates to basically question everything they ever told him. That's the job of a heretic, man. You can bring down the kings and authorities with a plum. That's why I love being a jester. I love it. You can tear down the authority instantaneously and you don't have to be apologetic. I love being a jester. You would not have a job If everybody started dating their proportional amount of fat to protein, all animals know. Oh, here we go. You guys are talking about something else. Sorry. Here we go. What is the Chuckism for the day? Sorry for the F-bomb. Oops, my bad. Yeah, that slipped. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Zoom is awesome. It's great one-on-one time with everybody. Appreciate that, friend. Shall we go on to some Zoom? I've got a few slides. We keep the awakening going, man. Keep working that muscle, baby. Do you think it gets more? Here we go. Hello, Amber Cosmic. Ooh, I like your picture there. Is that? Looks a bit like a butterfly. It's really pretty, though. It's really pretty. Do you think it gets more intense before it gets better? All I see is new Christians converts daily. Yeah. I feel like the last one standing. Yeah. You know, I think for right now, people are going to continue to seek for something to cope with. Christianity is a great cope mechanism. And when life gets really, really bad, it's really easy to cope with Christianity because you could just keep praying for that hedge of protection that God's going to come back, that, you know, these things that assuage the feelings of anxiety that you feel. And so I think that will continue because I think there's a lot of people in the world right now that are not ready to awaken. I think a lot of people have, but I think a lot of people don't want to. And I'm not sure how that's going to work out for them. I'm not sure how that's going to work out because in order to walk into the Great Awakening, you really need to understand these basic fundamentals. You really need to start to understand the lies that have been imposed on us as a society, or you're just going to fall to them again. That's why when you give someone a bunch of money, it doesn't make them financially responsible, as I've said before. So the answer isn't, okay, we're just going to awaken all the public up and we're good. The public will just go back to their old ways because that's how they've been raised. That's the way they've been trained. Just like the typical Christian who goes through a life catastrophe, they won't leave Christianity. They'll integrate further into it because they think it's the answer. They think it's providing the answer when it's actually what's most likely leading them to their demise. And so the point being that a person has to awaken to this. They have to awaken to this. And it's not something that you just tell, you know, it's not something that you can't just walk up to someone and just say, you know what, from what I observed about you, you know, you're really asleep. Actually, you don't understand really yourself or the world at all. You know, you can't be confrontational like that. You just have to render it to them through your behavior, through your just rendering the peace that you carry. I mean, the way that you go about your life, and just show them that you don't need all of these things that you believe and do in order to be okay. You're okay exactly as you are. It's your mind that makes you not okay, but you're completely okay. You are completely fine. It's the mind here that really messes up things until it gets a deeper perspective, and then we're all good, you know? Another all question here. Where's my previous? There's the previous. Okay, continuing. Yeah, sorry about the F-bomb. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Okay, all caps here, because this would tear down the majority's entire reality, and much of their lives would lose the meaning if they hung their hat on. Yeah, and that's a great point, DDP. People hang their hat of reality and understanding on the religion because, I mean, think about how intertwined Christianity gets into your life. I mean, think about it. It gets intertwined in every decision that you make. It gets intertwined in who you go into business with. It gets you intertwined with who you marry. It gets intertwined with who you choose as friends and how you behave as friends. It gets intertwined with how you behave at work and what you do for work. It's involved in everything. They intended it to do that. So the person, when they think, well, if I leave this religion, like my entire life has been built, all of my friends are Christian. I won't even be able to talk to my friends because they all relate everything in their lives to Jesus. I'm sorry to tell you, you're going to have to be willing to let that go. It's costly. Awakening is costly. I cannot tell you how many times I lost my life awakening. It happened a number of times in Texas as these epiphanies come over you and you realize just what is going on and what the responsible response is to the situation as it is. It's costly. I hope it doesn't cost you your friends, family, job, vocation, whatever, money, whatever. I hope it doesn't cost that of you. It very well may. Because the gloves are never on with nature. Nature never puts on the gloves. You're going to get what you deserve. And the deeper you are entrenched, I'm sorry to tell you this because this is coming from experience. Okay, I was 40 years entrenched. The deeper entrenched you are, the more it's going to cost you. How can it be otherwise? If your whole life is entangled in this thing, well, if you leave that thing, what happens to your life? You might be able to keep all your friends, but I promise you, all my friends that I still have that are Christian, there's a pressure point there. There's a disconnect there because I am so far away from the spiritual space they're in. So it's just kind of like a weird, who are you kind of a thing. How could it be otherwise? Because you've left something that was completely intertwined in your entire life. Chuck had a synchronicity recently, saw Peter Garrett in local Chinese rest. Next day had a feed on YouTube of Midnight Oil in concert from 2 years earlier, and he was wearing the same shirt. No way! No way! No way! What a trip. No trip. What a trip. That is wild. Chuck. I'm going to the ones that have caps. That's why I'm taking these ones. Chuck, is there any point you will be targeted, gang stalked, threatened, etc. before reaching the masses by the KM? How to protect yourself from this? I've let myself go to that Exxon or XCon. I've let myself go. I don't think about it. I don't worry about it. I don't think about it in the sense I'm not worried about it. I mean, I have, guns in the house and all that stuff. I do the necessary steps to protect myself and to, live correctly, having what's necessary to defend yourself and so forth. But at the end of the day, you can't live your life in fear of that, because then you won't be able to penetrate. You won't be able to be authentic because you're living in fear. And if you're living in fear, people see it. People see it. And you have to get to the place where you're not afraid of these people anymore because you see the con. And you just have to realize that, if it doesn't go so well for me, it doesn't go so well for me. But these people actually carry no inherent power. They only carry the power that I give them, and I ain't giving them any of my power. And so if that ends up costing me, then it costs me, but I'm not giving my power away. I'm not going to believe. And that's what belief is. It's giving your power away. I'm not going to believe what they say. I'm not going to believe what they threaten me with. And listen, please understand, this is a grassroots effort, and all the growth that you see has not come from any help, I promise you, from any of the authorities, because what I talk about is not friendly to their game. It's not. And so I'm suppressed all the time. I mean, look at, I'll show you guys something. About, speaking of suppression. Look at this slide. This is my web designer's site, and he's begun a project of posting my shorts. And look how when they started, 1,000 views, 700 views, and then look, he continues to post, and look how the suppression kicks in. Less and less and less views. And I see that on my channel all the time. All the time. How do I get rid of that? Here we are. All the time. So I'm being highly suppressed. I'm being highly, pushed back big time. But you just stay at it. You just stay at it. You never say die. You never say quit. You never say it's over. You never give up. And that's my attitude. That's my attitude. The way I can best be a hero to myself and society is to fearlessly convey what I've learned, what I've experienced. That's the best way that I can be a quote unquote hero to myself and society. I don't say hero in an egotistical sense. I say hero in the sense of helping the situation rather than harming it, helping the situation and being a light. Yeah. Here it is. Chuck, what, if anything, should I tell my 95-year-old Catholic mom who hopes she doesn't go to hell. You know, at that point, just love them. Just love them. You know, they're not, don't worry about it. You know, they're adults, and they'll find out when they pass away the truth. And that's great. And I welcome that. I don't even know what that's going to be, but I'm happy for them, and they'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's all good. No need to confront or do that stuff. Just live your life in truth. Live your life without apology. Live your life loving others. Really. Be an asset to others. Help others in the ways that they need help. You know, if you're married, be there for your spouse in ways that they need you. You know, be a light to them. Be a light to your friends. Be a shining light of truth, and not continuing the fear mongering. Be a source of joy and hope to others. You know, and this is how you can spread light. You know, telling everybody. That's one of the reasons why I didn't continue in the God Eater series, is just continuing to tell people how bad things are and how bad we've been deceived potentiates that bad energy in a way, not completely, but in a way. And so I wanted to move out of that space of repeating those negative tapes and move into a space of shining new tapes, new ideas, new heresies, to encourage, to burgeon growth and change in the society, rather than just saying the echo chamber statements that everybody is saying all the time these days. You know, and that's really how you make a major difference in the world. Did I? I'm glad they were okay with it. I was hoping it didn't offend anybody. Chrislam, that is a good one. I haven't heard that before. That's a good one. Chrislam. How do we integrate, like I did with monopoly pantheism, how do we integrate Chrislam with Judaism? You guys come up with a creative line. Chuck. There are F-bombs, and then there are cluster F-bombs. You showed remarkable. I'm trying. I promise. I'm trying. Dude, Brazil? What? Yeah, Brazil? Yeah. Yeah, I love my international nature creatures. Love international nature creatures. Yes. Here. You did it. You spelled it right. All good. Yeah, here we go. Thanks, Stacy. Next Zoom is at 1 a.m. Saturday morning, 4/18, and it'll go back to normal time next year or next week. Listen, the reason why I'm doing it at 1 a.m. is for the overseas family. We have people that live in London. We have people that live in China. We have people that live in Indonesia that watch this show. And they can't attend Zoom because it's at like 2 a.m. and they're a parent, or it's like 2 a.m. and they work at 6 a.m. You know, they have a life, in other words. So they can't just one night stay up until 3 a.m. on a Zoom phone call, because their whole next day is going to be jacked. And so I'm doing the Zoom next week at 1 a.m. so that all the people that are on the other side of the globe, it's midday for them, and then they can attend. That's why we're doing it that way. That's why we're doing it that way. So I'm hoping that we get a lot of new folks that simply haven't been able to attend because we've been at a time that they can't attend, right? And so that's why we're doing it. We're just doing it next week, and then we'll go back to 1 o'clock again in the afternoon. Yeah, Australia. F-bombs are like... That is really good. I would love to meet you, Carolyn. I would love, or Kiralu. I would love to meet you. I love Australians, man. They got the best sense of humor. I just love it. And not a one of them take themselves seriously. It's fantastic. I love being around people that don't take themselves seriously at all. It's how my dad is. He doesn't take himself seriously. So I feel very natural around people that don't take themselves seriously and are just who they are. Without apology. Just be who you are. Love it. Say what you want. Make it. Hey, you want to curse around me? Great. Knock yourself out. Be who you are. That's what I want to be around. I want to be around the real deal. I want to be around who you are. Yep. You feel it. You feel it and you become it. You feel it and you become it. Was your wife and children, hi, esoteric, was your wife and children practicing Christians too? Oh my God, yes. If so, did they leave the church with you also? So that's quite a story. That's quite a story, because I had completely indoctrinated my children in Christianity. And when my daughter was 7 and my son was 10, maybe a little bit older, is when I, began to tell them, no, that's not a good idea. And to a 7, 8-year-old and a 10, 11-year-old, that's pretty heavy duty. And it was tough. And the problem is that I had never done it before. I mean, welcome to parenting. And so, yeah, I mean, it went as well as you can expect, but it didn't go that well. And it's just a matter of just continuing to live life as a humane human being and showing that, look, you don't have to be a Christian to be nice to people. You can be a nice person and not be a Christian. I mean, I remember thinking like, how can even someone be nice? Like, all they would want to do is sin all the time. That's all they'd want to do. That's what I used to think when I was Christian. Like, there's no way that you could find hope and love because you don't have Jesus. I mean, Jesus is what brings you hope and love. I mean, God is the thing that brings that to you. Like, those people are crazy. This is the kind of thing that I thought. And so when you have taught that kind of thing to your kids and then tell them, no, we got to think differently, it's a process. It's a process, and it's taken a long time. And Jess is good now. So is Noah. They're Jess is completely abandoned. Noah sometimes has tinges, but I haven't had a lot of conversations with Noah on that level, on that psychological level. And I've had a few with Jess, but yeah, they're released from it. They're not attached. It's certainly Jess. Jess is completely out of it now. She completely left, but initially it was pretty tough for her. It's a hard, like I said, and I said earlier, guys, the Great Awakening is costly. It's costly. When you change these perspectives in your life and you've lived your whole life in a different perspective, it's going to be costly. And you just have to stay strong in your truth, soft-spoken, kind, loving, and tolerant. And this will allow you access to people who really pretty much don't trust you anymore because you've left the circle of trust. You're no longer one of the chosen ones. You're no longer the elect. And so, I don't know about you. I know about all my friends and we're all good, but I'm not so sure about you. You're not abiding in Jesus. And so how can I fully trust you? That's all part of the brainwashing, because the Christian, again, they're in a small psychology. They don't understand that is a very small view of the world. And they don't understand that thinking like that keeps you in the trap, because they're not aware of all of this self-denigrating idea, all these self-denigrating ideas they have about themselves. Because the religion has put that into them to make them needy, to make them lacking, to making them wanting and desiring. It's all part of the psyop to keep you in the psyop. I'm telling you, the Order of the Black Snake knew what they were doing. They knew what they were doing when they invented Christianity there in Rome. They knew exactly what they were doing. How we doing? Folks, it is 7:45. I was supposed to get to Zen. Wow. I mean, look, guys, look, sorry, I didn't mean to press that. Look, I have slides. Look, we're going to go right into Zen. This is an awesome slide. I spent like probably half a day on this one. There's no way I'm going to rush through that. There's no way. Look at this slide. This is a key slide to understanding. I mean, I basically lay out in this center section the road or the path of the Tao, which is no path. And I lay it all out, and I've got it all time. So I'm not gonna try to get into that. I'm not gonna try to get into it. We're gonna do it next week. We won't do any Zen this week. Sorry. I'm sorry. I got too involved in my creative writing process. So we'll do Zen next week. I am really sorry, guys. That was, I cannot believe it's 7:45. That is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. I'm sorry. I feel like the Bible's a compromised book. Sorry. I don't think you can do anything but just glean from it the few points that it makes that are helpful. But I think its history is compromised. I think its values are compromised. I think its doctrine is compromised. I think its dogma is compromised. And so basically, keep it at arm's length, and everything in there take with a bag of salt. That would be my suggestion. I'm not saying to burn it. I'm not saying to get rid of it. I'm not saying that. I'm not like that. But keep it at arm's distance in the same way that you would the Egyptian Book of the Dead. It's got some great concepts in it. And same with the Shobogenzo. These are books that have good concepts in them, but don't form your life around them. Form your life around your experience. Form your life around the truth that you are and the truth that you discover. Don't form it around a book or words. That's my opinion on that. I'm cool with this having some Q&A time. What do you think? Sorry to repeat. I woke up or saw the in-between bullshit around 1437. Now Paranoid, lack of better terms, not hated, just outside. It's actually hard. Sorry for venting. Sorry, I thought that was a question because it was all caps. I guess you're just venting. Here. The Christian egregore is, no surprise, a pushy and manipulative AF. We know what that means. That will come back to check in on you months or years later. Yes, it will try to get you to argue and defend you. Yes. Twilight Mist, that is an insightful statement. Yes. It instigates conflict because it is oriented to conflict. Yes. Western religions instigate fanaticism because that's it. It's the only truth. It tells you that. Islam thinks that this is Allah, this word of Allah, it's the only true truth. The Bible for the Christian, it's the only true truth. The Torah for the Jew, it's the only true truth, right? And this makes you into fanatic. You can't have, like, think about the logic. You can't have a calm, nonplussed conversation with someone who is talking heresy and telling you that Jesus is worthless. The Christian is going to get up into that because they're like, no, you can't say that. And they take it personally because they integrate the religion as a personal vendetta, a personal belief. And so they think of themselves not as a human, but as a Christian. So when you say something against or not abiding with Christianity, they take it personally because they personally integrate the religion. Do you see? And you're supposed to be who you are. You're humanist. You're not supposed to be a religion. You're not supposed to be a social institution. You're to be a nature creature. So you can see how they're aggressive. These religions are aggressive. They come at you. They're not passive. They come at you to get you into them. And once you're tied into them, you can't leave because they're aggressive. This is how they override their psychology. It's the same thing that happens to the Stockholm syndrome person. They don't carry their normal psychology in the trauma situation because they're in a trauma situation. You see, and so they're not in their normal psychology. They've moved into a trauma abuse psychology. And so they're not thinking clearly. And this is why the Christian becomes a fanatic. They're not thinking clearly. They don't realize they're being inhumane by making the claims that they do, by making the claims that they're saved and you're not, that making the claims that I can know God and you can't. You can see then right on the front end how small their psychology is. How they are clued into the world through threat and conflict, not through co-emergence and unity. Those are too large of a concepts for them to realize. They have to stay stuck in the conflict, dualistic world because that world has answers for them because they're seeking answers. And the reason they're seeking answers is because they're full of lack. The religion has filled them full of lack because they're not oriented. So they're not oriented to nature. They're oriented to a social institution. This leaves you feeling lack. This leaves you feeling less than because you're not oriented to your natural. Your natural is nature, not institutions, not sociology. Your natural is nature. You're not a social institution. Okay? And so until those basics, you see how they're basics? Until those basics are understood by the Christian, they'll continue to remain childish and fanatical in their responses to anyone that questions them. Because they're operating in that psychology. They're operating in a conflict-oriented winners and losers psychology. And they can't escape it because that's what happens when they die. They go to heaven or hell. They're in conflict. They're in absolutes. They're in dualism. They're not in the world. They're in an illusion of the world, a world that was put into them, put onto them, appliqué. It's not authentic. And this is why they act that way. Good stuff, guys. I am exhausted. Thank you so much. I try to stay nonplussed as I can and just deliver the passion when it's there. Hey, Pablo, what's going on, buddy? At the end of it, we need to have an F1 meeting soon. At the end of the day, Chuck, if that what life has for you to experience, then be it so. Fear will not make the now any better, so we don't need to feed that energy. Exactly, which is why I'm encouraging people to leave Christianity so they leave the realm of conflict and fear. Thank you, friend. I appreciate that. You are my hero for being here. Seriously. I don't say that lightly, and I don't put that lightly. And people who are willing to write something like that, I admire. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening and not taking offensively maybe some things that I've said tonight that don't fully align to you. The beast system is run on evil, yes, and no man ever does anything for the sake of evil. All things are decided on best intention. Evil is ignorance. Thank you for that opinion, Sean Power. I appreciate it. Right now, we are tearing the ceiling off reality. Yes, right now, we scream into the circuit boards, God, wake up, wake up, wake up. You got it. You got, ooh, I like that picture. That's way cool. I love the eye. That's awesome. I hope that's your eye. That's really cool. Here. Hi, Catalin. Across all mediums, you are reaching people, and like-minded people will increase exponentially. That's my hope, but I want the non-like-minded people to expand exponentially. But I know you know that too. I know you mean that too. I know you mean that too. The world, here, what is this? The world is a live wire, and we're biting it with bare teeth. Yes, this moment is a meteorite for us. Or this breath is a detonator. This heartbeat is a, I don't know. I can't read the rest. Or the glitch in the system. Yeah, I think you're just basically sharing similar. Yeah. Yeah. This is why I know humanity is going to win out, because we carry the highest vibration, because we're conscious beings. And people just need to recognize that. The courage to follow the pathless path led me out of Christianity. Right on, Bob. My God is so spacious. It's called faith. Yeah, you got it, Bob. I love you, Bob. Can't wait to see you in Zoom, buddy. Can't wait to see you in Zoom. We're on at 1 a.m. on Saturday this week. I'm about to wrap it up, my friends. Any final questions? Heck yeah. Heck yeah. Love our internationals, man. Heck yeah. Love them. Heck yeah. Love it. I'm a weirdo too. I'm right there with you. I don't fit into anything. You know what? Honestly, if he did exist, I do think he is a good guy. And I think that basically the Catholic Church made him into what they did. But I think he was just a good sage, you know, hanging out, doing his thing, just like there were a lot of sages back in that day, a lot of gurus. You know, and I think overall he's probably just a good guy, and he was completely manipulated by the Catholic Church, who used him as a means to capture people, which is really sad. But, you know, nobody should be surprised. Interesting. Reminds me of when I got clean and sober, I broke a very codependent, trauma bonding family dynamic, still somewhat estranged from them, their choice. Yeah. Yep. I don't see any cat here. Hey, Cindy. Hey, Cindy. Chuck, I'm planning not coming back here when my time comes. I'm the same way, but I'm afraid that Cam might use my dog to pull me back. Yeah, I completely understand, Cindy. I had a dog like that too. I did. I loved her to death, Soma. She was a little Western, a Westie, West Highland White Terrier. And we also had her daughter. We named her Nugs, Soma and Nugs, and they were opposites. Soma was this, oh my God, she was beautiful and refined. She was not the typical terrier. Soma had this her hair wasn't wiry. It was soft and luxurious. It's beautiful. And she had the most mellow temperament, and she didn't like to go on walks. She liked to just hang out and chill. And she actually wasn't even really into people that much, except for my daughter. She loved Jessica more than anything in the world. But I was her master. You know, I was the one who fed her every day and everything. But we would come home from, say, like dinner. This was back when the kids were little. We come back from dinner, and I fed the dogs. I took care of the dogs. I did all the thing. But as soon as we get back from dinner, we walk in the house, and Soma would run right for Jessica. Wouldn't even run for me. And it was unapologetic. Like, she's like, no way, man. I'm going to who I want to be with. And she would always go to Jess, and she would let Jess pet her and play with her in a way that she never would with me. It was so beautiful. And so I love that dog. And I loved it that she wasn't just a pushover. She didn't just love anybody. Soma was selective, and I liked that. And she definitely loved me. I loved her to death, but her favorite was Jessica. And yeah, I loved her all the more for it. Super, super mellow, super chill. And then Nugs was the opposite. Her daughter was the opposite. We kept Soma because the the breeder said to us, listen, Soma's an alpha male and she doesn't, or alpha female, and she doesn't get along with any of the other females when she's pregnant. And she'll abort her litter if she's confronted by another female to maintain her status as the alpha male, alpha female. And so the breeder said to us, hey, if you'll whelp her, or if you'll keep her while she's pregnant for the next 2 pregnancies, you can keep her when we're done, because her breed stock was so incredible, like Soma's beauty, temperament, and so forth, and shaping were show winners. Like all her pups would win shows. She was like this incredible dog. So we kept her daughter as part of the deal. In keeping Soma, the breeder allowed us to keep one of the pups, and so Soma and her daughter lived with us for like 13 years. And loved them to death, and they loved each other. They were the best of friends, and it was so beautiful to see the two together, but they were opposite in personality. Opposite. So Nugs was like crazy, and then Soma would just like look at Nugs like, what's the matter with you? It was really funny. They got along great. They really did. And I miss my dog. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Cindy. I don't blame you, but no, I'm not coming back. There's nothing left on this earth that's going to hold me. I've let everything go. There's nothing left. I'm not tied into anything. Chuck, let's do next week. Today's message was profound and necessary. You bet. We'll do Zen next week. We're about out of time. Love you guys so much. Any questions? I want to find a last question here. I'm going to jump to the bottom. Religion creates the disease so they can self-secure. Bang. You got it, Clueless. Watch this video, folks, if you want to learn the psychology of religion. I think we're about done here. Nice. Good to know. Good to know. I love dogs. I love dogs so much. You're welcome, King. Glad to be here, guys. I would play the postlude music that we played at the beginning, but I have a feeling that YouTube didn't like the music that I chose, and they screwed me up, and they banned me for a minute until I stopped the music, so I'm not going to play it. We're going to get out of here, though. I'm going to say goodbye. It's 7:57. Love you guys. Thanks for sticking out. I am so sorry we didn't get to Zen today. I'm sorry. It's kind of weird today, isn't it? Because I called it Zen Week 25. This is weird. Okay, so get this. This week I thought we were going on to Zen 26, but it was Zen 25. This is really weird, but it was Zen 25 actually. And so I logged in to begin the show, and I have everything pre-made, like all the video, all the slides, everything based on it being week 26. And I'm loading up, and I see, oh my God, last week was week 24. And I was like, wait a minute. And then I realized that moment we never had week 25. And this week, for the first time in 25 weeks, I didn't talk about Zen, and that was unintentional. How wild is that? There's no Zen 25, and I didn't talk about Zen in week 25. Unintentionally. And we're going to start. I mean, that kind of stuff is what's happening in my life all the time. And so now this is open to the opportunity for me to relabel this as just like a Christianity, a talk about escaping the psychology of Christianity rather than making the cover title Zen. So I'm probably going to have to switch it out. And it works out perfectly, though, because we never had a week 25. That's just incredible. Love you guys. That's amazing. I love it, Pablo. That's why we smoke weed. I love that. We'll end on that, dude. Thank you so much. I'm going to leave the comment up as we go. Love you guys. I'll see